This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. And good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. Well, starting in a brand new week here on C2C. Back at you here on C2C at night, your late night stop and destination for all things sports talk, the way it should be done. Recapping the weekend that was and the day that was in sports. As we again, folks, take the Grand Circle Tour on this Monday night, March the 10th, 2025. Alongside that man, James Gonzales from up in Oceanside, California. Yours truly, Callan McClurg, down here in San Diego. Mr. Gonzales, a lot of action going on as we begin college basketball. March Madness is already here with conference tournaments and tickets being punched for the big dance coming up here in about a week or so. Plenty of talk in baseball. NFL free agency is off the hook. NHL trade deadlines come and gone. Contenders and pretenders in the NBA and so much more. But James, good to see you, my friend. How are we doing tonight? Good to see you as always.
Man, it's good to see you as well. Yeah. I just saw Haley Van Lith is her name.
Yes.
She led the TCU Horned Frogs to that Big 12 title, I think, tonight. She had a big game. Good for them. TCU was down in the dumps. I think they had like 1 or 2 wins one year, and then they just rose with Haley coming over from LSU. And that court, I gotta say, was just I don't know what to think about it. Like, yeah, it made me kind of sick right now.
I was hypnotized.
Yeah, I swore I saw that coming, but I can't wait to see the rest of the the regional tournaments, conference tournaments, I should say, locally here, of course, with UC San Diego, San Diego State. So much more to go, and March is just the best time of year, almost.
I mean, we got March Madness. We're in the middle of spring training with baseball season starting in about 2 weeks, roughly, come Thursday. We're down the pipeline now for the NBA playoff races, the Stanley Cup playoff races. MLS is 3 weeks old. We got golf coming up, though, as well as we get towards April for the Masters next month. And so much going on in March, so much going on in April. James, I'm not going to lie, though, man. Kind of grumpy. I'm a little kind of dragging because of the time change. Of course, it happened on Sunday, going forward by an hour. Literally, James, my bodily clock still thought it was 11 a.m. this morning when I finally chose to get the coffee pot started. And I checked my phone. It said 12:05 in the afternoon. So I'm very much still groggy, and I'm sure you are too, having to get, working on Monday. Like, how has the time changed? I know it's only an hour going forward. Hey, the sun's going down now at 6 o'clock in the evening. I love it. So much for seasonal depression going away now, but still, James, I'm still kind of groggy after the first couple days.
I didn't even realize it until like the day before that it was the time change day. And then I think I take so much melatonin that I didn't even realize that, honestly, that I missed out on an hour of sleep. There could have been chance I got gained an hour of sleep just because I slept an hour more. But yeah, all good here. Just happy the sun was out too. So Sunday night, or it felt like Sunday night because the sun hasn't been out for so long. I actually went out, shot some hoops. The jumper has never left. The purity of it. I can't wait to go out and, play some 2-on-2, 3-on-3, wherever I go.
So much going on. And for me, it still feels like it's 9 o'clock in the evening. Like it's 5 after 9, not 5 after 10 right now on this Monday. Regardless, folks, again, if you're joining us live here on Facebook, live on YouTube, or via Twitch, again, hit up our live chat box. Our absolute best, as always, to ensure that your commentary, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, is in fact read live on the air here this evening. All right, James, we'll start things off with easily the biggest news of the day, my friend, over in Major League Baseball concerning the worst fears of the New York Yankees, who officially, James, confirmed after a second opinion per two writers of The Athletic, Brendan Kelly and Chris Kirschner, that per renowned sports surgeon Dr. Neil Elatre in Los Angeles, the Yankees announced today on Monday that Garrett Cole is done for the season after having to go underneath the knife for Tommy John surgery because of the timing of the injury. He'll also likely miss a chunk of 2026, with the procedure taking roughly a year to 18 months to fully recover from. This, of course, was after Cole left a start fairly recently due to some discomfort. And now the rotation that had been viewed as their biggest strength coming into the season is now suffering a huge loss. After losing Juan Soto in free agency, the club pivoted to strengthening its run prevention. They signed Max Fried to an 8-year, $218 million contract and fortified the bullpen by trading for Brewers closer Devin Williams. But now, of course, James, that throws a major wrench now in the plans for the Yankee rotation, which now, though, James, probably will now include the likes of Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, a disgruntled Marcus Stroman, rookie Will Warren, and veteran Carlos Carrasco for the Yankees' projected rotation. Now, there are still at least 4 bona fide pitchers that are still out there via free agency right now, which includes Patrick Corbin, Lance Lynn, Spencer Turnbull, and Kyle Gibson. Though the Yankees could try, though, to make another trade either for Sandy Alcantara from the Marlins or maybe even San Diego Padres #1 pitcher Dylan Cease is also on the trade board right now. Either way, though, James, the news sucks for a Yankees ball club who, again, James, first World Series trip since 2009, beaten by a much better Dodger team. Don't listen to Nestor Cortez's, thoughts about what happened last season. But now, James, this season is already off to a horrible start. Giancarlo Stanton, elbow discomfort, and I should say elbows discomfort. Both the right elbow and left elbow, both giving him issues. I heard reports today, 3 different plasma injections in both elbows for one thing. Now here, James, Garrett Cole, the ace of the staff, done for the season, done likely in the next season as well, if there's even a season. But, James, as if the Yankees cannot afford any more losses when it comes to roster depth and the roster in general, Stanton being injured again, sadly, and now, of course, James, losing a bona fide ace in Garrett Cole. James, how damaging is it right now on March 10th, about 17 days away from opening day, that the Yankees lose both Stanton, but more importantly, James, lose the ace of the pitching staff in Garrett Cole at this juncture?
It is definitely huge. They're lucky that, Stroman didn't hold out or, ask and beg for a trade, because you want to get much back for him. You want to get much help back for him. Remember, too, they're without Luis Hill, the rookie of the year from last season. He's out, I think, 5 more weeks with a lat strain, and you need that when you pitch. So you need that not to be an issue. So yeah, that's another missing piece from that starting rotation. They luckily went out and spent some of that Soto money on Max Fried, so that was really, really helpful in that case. But this guy, Garrett Cole, he was literally Cy Young Award winner last year, got into the World Series. But we have to remember last spring he had a injury. Last March he had right elbow inflammation and edema that delayed him until June to start his regular season. So I remember this being a problem last year. But this elbow injury, of course, knee and Tommy John, it's like worst case. It's the worst case scenario for him in his career. It's just funny how time flies by, because we remember him coming up with the Pirates when they were winning, and now he's 34 years old. He's gone through other injuries, and now this one you can't get past it. So, and also there's big money. 4 years and 144 million remaining on his contract. He opted out, but the club soon agreed with him to a new on an extension, I should say, that gave him more money. So it's just amazing how that works out, where you get more money, but you see less of him. And since it happened now, he might miss a chunk of the 2026 season, like you mentioned, if there is a 2026 season. Um, so he's a six-time All-Star. I totally forgot about that, but won the Cy Young in 2023, I should say. Yeah, he allowed 6 runs, 2 2/3 innings to the Twins, and that led to the imaging, led to the wondering, hey, what's really wrong? There was concern on the weekend after the start and going into the weekend, I should say, but now like I said, the worst case scenario where they got the second opinion and he could not get through it, or else who knows what would have happened. So yeah, it obviously hurts the Yankees. They could get Alejandro from Miami. There's other options out there. Patrick Corbin, you and I, of course, watched him whenever Washington would come to San Diego.
For sure. Or
and
Arizona.
Yeah, long ago too. Lefty pitcher, gives up the long ball way too often in that ballpark, New Yankee Stadium.
No thanks.
Everybody or the right-handed hitters would just time it early and go the other way to right field on him. So I don't know that could be if they can't get a trade done with whomever, they could get him, but the fans wouldn't like him. So also, you mentioned they got Carlos Carrasco. He came back, I think, from cancer eventually, and he's having a hard time kind of wrap his career back up. New York, Cleveland. It's good that they got him though, just in case. And like I said, with Stroman, yeah. Luckily, they kept Stroman, and now he can be a starter. He's not going to come out of the bullpen. So that's what he always wanted. And I think, like I thought when all that Stroman news was coming out, if an injury happens, they're going to put him right in there. So it's going to be redemption time for him if he can get through the season well. But yeah, it's the other from losing Judge, this is the second biggest loss for the Yankees. If they lost Judge, that would be the first one. With Stanton, like you mentioned, though, he had both elbows going to get surgery on that. And I think I heard someone mention this, but I've seen it too. With his swing, it just looks so robotic whenever he hits a home run. It's almost like he doesn't really twist. It's weird. It's like he's an old action figure where you press a button from the back and he goes like this. That's how it looks like when he swings and hits, but the ball goes 500 feet.
Yeah, I heard a similar thing brought up, I think, on Emily Network today during in between spring games today. But maybe even it was brought up on local radio or just radio in general or even on television that Giancarlo's stance is just very awkward. It's not necessarily his arm position, James, but how his front leg cuts off his lower half movement, as you were saying, where he can't get the full, we always hear about, clear the hips, get your hips through the ball, in golf or in baseball. And the way he stands there with that front leg so far ahead of the, his back leg, he really can't get the torque from his lower half to finish the swing. Now it looks a lot like a upper body, kind of like a lumberjack swing. And I wonder, though, if that is just why the elbows are barking all of a sudden now. And for Garrett Cole, real quick, James, a little bit more from the article from The Athletic. To your point, though, James, for Cole, it's fair to wonder how the Tommy John now will impact the rest of his career. He misses his entire age 34 season, likely a chunk of his age 35 season, and generally pitchers start declining in their mid-30s. Before requiring Tommy John surgery, he had already been showing signs of aging. Average fastball velocity had dipped from its heights in 2021 and no longer registering the same number of whiffs and strikeouts as he once did showcase, which, James, does lead me to kind of a sidebar tangent. The rise, I think, of the all we want is velo is why I think a lot of these big name pitchers, either it's I want velo or I want maximum spin rate, is why there's a pitching epidemic when it comes to the rise of Tommy John surgeries. This is with the Dodgers, with the Padres and Joe Musgrove, even with Adrian Morejon several times in his career, now with Garrett Cole, maybe with Verlander, other, pitchers, James, who I think Walker Buehler kind of said that after the Dodgers won it all in 2024 was, I don't care if my arm falls off. You'll have to basically, stretcher me off the mound. I will go out there and blow out my elbow for a third time if it means that we win it all. It's the whole Chris Evans line from Avengers Endgame. Whatever it takes to defeat Thanos, I will do it. And I think, James, that we are kind of doing some very interesting times where so many pitchers have gone down. I think I brought this up on Press Row, I think last year or even 2 years ago, about that the rise, though, of the pitching influx of Tommy John surgeries was beginning to get very concerning, because maybe it was my thoughts, well, the pitch clock's kind of hurting because guys have to get the ball, get back on the mound, and go right through their delivery. They don't get really a chance to, catch their breath and kind of work at their own pace because now they're against a pitch clock. Where now I also think, James, that sadly analytics has played a factor, but also either guys max out for velo or guys are, flicking the wrist more and more to get more spin on their sweepers and, their chitters and other, weird pitches that they have now mixed when it's come to, whatever it is. But James, maybe what would you probably say, though, is not really the sole reason, but why do you think, though, that we've been seeing guys like Garrett Cole, guys like Joe Musgrove, guys like a Walker Buehler, or all the guys who were, underneath the knife with the Dodgers last season? Why, though, are we in this very weird state, though, where there's so many Tommy John surgeries for pitchers now in 2025, even the last couple seasons?
It is maxing out their velos, but I think the main problem is the analytical people wants every starter or every pitcher really to have what they call a sweeper, just a more devastating slider, and that changes up the arm elbow, the arm angle, and the elbow coming on with the pitch. And I feel like that's the biggest problem. You're trying to teach, an old dog a new trick, and that could hurt. But spin rate is also an issue too. It is devastating in both ways. It helps you, but it hurts you. But I feel like when they brought in the sweeper, that's when you
Agreed.
start seeing all these damn Tommy John surgeries. And it wasn't just in the majors, it was the minor league pitchers. I had a number because we were talking about this last year all over wherever we do our shows from. I had to talk about it, and they had just an alarming rate of Tommy John surgeries needed. And it was minor leaguers. It was more than 100% that needed it. I mean, that's how bad it really was. And it still is. The Dodgers had all those surgeries like you mentioned, but it's a base. And oh god, now I remember. I think it was on deck, and I tried to put it in a simple little league form of speech where I'm like, okay, remember they did not allow pitchers in little league and growing up to throw, breaking balls. It was just, fastballs, throwing a random curveball, but it wasn't as, and to not throw as fast either. It was more set on locations, more than how fast can you throw and how much spin can you put on the ball. How much can a slider or sweeper, dip like that? Now, from the high school level, middle school, even, I bet now you're having all the analytical stuff come up where you have to do this to get to the next level. And there's been high schoolers getting Tommy John that'll eventually need it if they go pro as well. So it starts from that. I think it just starts from the analytical approaches. It's ruining the game both ways. But I think it all started with that sweeper. Once people started throwing the sweepers, it just felt like more elbow issues were coming because they weren't used to the torque of using the arm like that. And I wish I knew more of the terminology, but it just felt like that, where it's a new arm angle, and if arm is just used to throwing straight fastballs, but now having to, go another rotation, then you're going to have some type of just breakout, it feels like, with the arm or with the elbow. So I just feel like the sweeper was the problem from the start.
James, I wanted to further echo on your thoughts about Little League. Dr. James Andrews, who was the godfather in a way. You know, you always heard Dr. James Andrews play the spooky Halloween organ. You know, da 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 da. You know, because that was the guy for the surgery forever until I think Dr. Andrews finally retired. But I remember that he was at the forefront, though, for Little League, to your point about, you know, hey, you can't be teaching kids to throw curveballs or, you know, change ups at age 8, age 9, age 10. But Dr. Andrews was at the forefront, though, James, of the pitch counts. If you throw a certain number of pitches between 0 and this, no days off. You know, this number, you know, this range was 1 day. And I think the max that you can throw, if memory serves me correct from my time doing Little League, the max that you can throw is 85. And then you have to take a full 5 days off for your age group. And also, James, a little bit more details about the surgery. Last season, so in 2024, James, 36% of all active major league pitchers had undergone Tommy John surgery during their career at one point in time. 2 years ago, in 2023, more professional pitchers had Tommy John surgery than in the entire era of the 1990s. That's just 2 years ago, James, and we're already way beyond where the surgery was about 30 years ago.
That's just amazing to realize that. And it's evolution, and they're saying, oh, it's for the best because you can strike out more hitters or fool more hitters. But that's why you see careers that are more short.
Prematurely.
Yeah, and it's at a bigger rate now. You don't have and I heard this today too, but I wish we had more Greg Maddux type of pitchers, right? Where they're just focusing on location and movement more than throwing the fastest, throwing the hardest, and the spin rate. I think if we had more Greg Maddux approaches, I think that'd be better. But the only thing is the kids
that
are hitting
sell
the ball
anymore for teams, which is stupid.
Yeah, and the batters have their technology where it starts with metal bats, and then it starts with all the new equipment that they have where, you know, if you do this, you can hit the ball further. The launch angle. Yeah, it's gone away from what I think we loved and what we knew and what was the safest approaches. Now it's like
caution to the wind.
Now you'll miss a year, but you can still throw this devastating pitch, but make sure you get paid before that.
At the cost of maybe ruining my career and my life after baseball, no thanks. Christy Wilson James agrees. 36% of pitchers had Tommy John surgery. Holy crap.
No, that's alarming.
And again, Christy, just think that again, that 2 years ago in 2023, more pitchers had it than the entire era of the 1990s, before and during and after I was born. That's insane. James, kind of going back, and I know that we've been kind of talking about both of these issues, but mainly another one, though, that's popped up again. And this has been mainly, though, James, like we said last Monday, the fact that we're going to be having two teams playing in minor league ballparks this upcoming season with where are they with the Athletics? Is it Sacramento? Is it Vegas? Is it Northern California? Because now reports, folks, came out that the A's will have the that they will have the visit LasVegas.com on their jersey patch on top of the Sacramento patch. We don't want to be called Sacramento. Like, it's conflicting, so conflicting. But then, James, the story, though, from the other team who's displaced right now, from Evan Drellich of the Athletic, all of a sudden, James, this Tampa Bay Rays situation, my man, is right back in the limelight for all the wrong reasons. And this was a very, James, interesting story that I did not read in its entirety. But now, though, James, there's reports put out by Evan Drellich of the Athletic that Stu Sternberg, who is the owner of the Tampa Bay Rays, who is like at the goal line, it feels like maybe the 2-yard line of finally getting this stadium proposal into the end zone for the Rays. Now, though, James, per Evan Drellich, his reporting says that Stu Sternberg is now considering walking away from the stadium deal in St. Petersburg, Florida. And now, per reports, Stu Sternberg is now being full court pressed to sell the team by Commissioner Rob Manfred, and some other MLB owners who have not been publicly unveiled. People briefed on the ownership level conversations who were not authorized to speak publicly told The Athletic on Sunday. Now, James, interesting wrinkle. One of the groups interested in buying the Rays is the family of Edward D. Bartolo Jr., who has Tampa, Florida roots. 3 people briefed on that discussion said members of his family currently own the San Francisco 49ers, though Edward Jr. is no longer involved with the organization. Former Yankee minority owner Joe Malloy is now involved in the Di Bartolo effort as well, but does not carry the same financial weight right now as Di Bartolo does. The people that were briefed on the team's discussions also told that Tampa businessman Dan Doyle Jr., who reportedly pulled out of a previous process to buy the Rays 2 years ago, is part of another group with interest to buy the Tampa Bay Rays, both the league and as well. The Niners chose not to comment, with Doyle and Malloy not being reached right away for comment. A little bit further about the story. Stu Sternberg has also been courting minority investors for the Tampa Bay franchise. If the team is sold, the league ultimately wants the franchise to stay in Florida with an eye on the Ybor City neighborhood near downtown Tampa if St. Petersburg does not work out. People also briefed on the process pointed to Orlando, James, as another possible outlet for the Rays that they should move. But after 17 years trying to find the new stadium, Sternberg now appears to be on the clock to firm up a long-term plan, be it by selling the Rays or building a new ballpark. If he does not do so, he risks MLB trying to take away at least some of the team's revenue sharing pot in the future. People briefed on that ownership level also said the Rays receive about $60 million from that pool every season. 2 key dates loom, by the way, before we get to our thoughts here. The first one is in 2 weeks, March 31st. A deadline for Stu to meet several obligations that would push forward a $1.3 billion stadium deal in St. Pete. The Rays have been telegraphing that they are unlikely to meet those obligations, however, which would leave them on square one or close to it, in search of a municipality in Florida that will agree to a publicly fund some of a ballpark project. The Rays plan to contribute still $700 million to the stadium in St. Pete, but the team is arguing that a delayed county vote led to a holdup in the construction and therefore increased costs. They do not believe they should cover those costs on their own. The delay, of course, came, though, in wake of the damage that was suffered by Tropicana Field, in wake of Hurricane Milton, which ripped the roof completely off the ballpark, with the Rays now playing at least through 2026 at the Yankees minor league facility down in Florida. So, James, we went from a lot of back and forth over the past several months to then it looked like it might actually get done. But now, James, this story comes out, and now we have the public knowledge. Now the commissioner is getting on board to force the owner out of the franchise. Now, James, know that we have talked about this either on Press Row. We've talked about it here after the whole, after we heard about the ballpark getting ravaged by the storm and whatnot. And we talked about, what should the Rays do? We talked about them staying in St. Pete, going to Tampa, going to Orlando. I know that Montreal was brought up. We heard, Charlotte was involved, maybe Nashville, that we sat here, talked for like 15, 20 minutes and just kind of, throwing stuff into the wind. But now all of a sudden, James, it's all good for the commissioner to step in and actually tell an owner either get it right or get out. Like I will say, where was that for the great people of Oakland, California? Like I said, why does the West Coast get half-assed support from the front office, but we'll let a team on the East Coast get all the support? Oh, it's the American League East. It's this, it's that, it's the marketplace. I get all that, James, but this now all of a sudden becomes a very wow. Because I remember saying that I think that the Rays had to reach out to minority investors, like get the Lightning on board, get the Rowdies on board, get other teams in the Tampa, St. Pete area on board to take some of the financial strain off of Stu Sternberg, who I still think, James, said it right though when he said, I will pay out of my pocket to get this thing finally done to keep the sport here. Now, I will say, though, James, that I kind of get more enticed about Orlando maybe being the best option for the Rays going forward again. NBA market, East Coast Hockey League market, great fan base, I think, that would support baseball in Orlando. Again, call them the Dreamers, the whole thing that they wanted to do down there. But, James, what a weird, wacky story that now just broke here involving on Sunday. Now, James, pressure from the commissioner, get it done or we are going to force you out if you are the Tampa Bay Rays owner and Stu Sternberg. James, your thoughts?
It seems like Rob Manfred, he's been more vocal than ever, or more um, putting more
Putting more
deadlines
heat
on
on the
people.
Rays, but why
Yeah,
not for your boy John Fisher in Oakland / Sacramento / Northern California / Vegas?
they really want that Vegas site for MLB. They really want that to happen. I think that's why. I think Mother Nature did the Rays a favor, at least not right now, but to realize that St. Pete wasn't the place for him. You know what my stance is on this is
There
that
shouldn't be teams in Florida.
no, I forgot I said that, but yeah, that, and then if there had to be, at least move it to where the people are, not where they have to go all the way to St. Pete when they could just be in Tampa, or that. What was the place you mentioned that's close to Tampa that they were
Orlando.
thinking about? No, not Orlando. It was it's like right. They had a site right next to Tampa. I think it was in Western Florida, but there or Tampa is where the Rays should be, and it should be a downtown ballpark. They should really maybe take the Petco Park model of the gas lamp being something and building
Sure.
into that. That's how it's like now. All the new stadiums, they have revenues of ballparks, right? You saw that with the Braves, what the Mets are going to do with their property in Queens.
What the Padres have done.
Yeah, with the gas lamp. But yeah, I think they should never be in St. Pete. The this sounds like God. It sounds like when the Chargers had all those years to get something done, but at least you have an owner who is saying, "Yeah, I want to get something done here. I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't want to sell and have someone move them." But I would trust the people. If you had to sell, I would trust the three people because they're from the area, right? So that's good. At least you have that. You don't have someone coming in like a Clay Bennett and saying, "Oh no, we're not going to move. Don't worry," and move them right away to
Or the
Oklahoma
Maloff
City.
brothers who wanted to move the Kings out of Sacramento.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot about and
Thank you, Kevin Johnson.
maybe what's happening in Dallas. Who knows about that? But
Yikes. We'll have more about that later.
yeah. So yeah, for me, I always wanted the Rays in actual Tampa, not be called Tampa Bay because of the Bay. But I really want that to be the case. I think the last resort would be Orlando with all the momentum that they've had over the years. And Pat Williams, who passed away, unfortunately, that was his thing, trying to get a baseball team to Orlando because he knows the area with the Magic and all those years there. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think it's either St. Pete, it's Tampa, or they're going to move out of state. And I could definitely see that happening. But for me, I want them in Tampa. They're closer to where everybody is instead of driving and going over the bridge to get to St. Pete. It just seems like the most logical. I think everybody else is over there in actual, like Tampa or in the Tampa area.
Yeah, the Lightning are there. The Rowdies of the USL are there for soccer. I think that's where the Tampa Bay Mutiny once played when they were in MLS. Was actually in Tampa before they folded. I think after 3 or 4 years of operation. Some thoughts, real quick, James. Let's first get to these comments. Saying what's up to our good man Brandon Herrera. Christy wrote in about both of the situations. She first says that the whole situation with the Rays is crazy. I mean, I think, James, it's only crazy in Christie's mind because we went from, I think what I've been reporting on Press Row for the past several months was obviously the damage done by Hurricane Milton. Then it was the Rays looking for a home. We had talked about, could they maybe barnstorm like the Hornets did after Hurricane Katrina came through New Orleans? They had gone to, NOLA. They gone to Oklahoma City. They had done a lot of that. I know that we talked about like potential markets to drum up maybe fan interest, like in Nashville, like in Charlotte, North Carolina. Those were two markets who I know have been kind of wanting franchises in Major League Baseball. And we thought about, locally, like we said, go to Orlando if you could. And then she also says, I've been to Tampa and to Tropicana Field. It looks very out of place there. And yet, James, you want to build the brand new ballpark at like the gas plant district down there where like all the Arco and Shell gasoline refineries are at down in Tampa.
I think before the season ended last year, I watched something on YouTube. I think it was the local ABC affiliate, and they literally were showing where the new ballpark would be. And it's literally, on a plant, and there's just like dead grass everywhere, dirt roads. It just looks awful. And there's nothing around it too where you could build infrastructure either. So that's why I just mentioned if they went to Tampa, it would be so much better. Like where they are now. I know they're playing in the minor league ballpark, but if you could somehow get somewhere over there, or maybe where the Bucks play. I know they're out kind of by themselves, but at least they're in the limits. I would really like that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, James, it'd be like building a ballpark near all the refineries in Long Beach.
Carson.
If you know where I mean, right there on the 405 coming back from Carson or wherever.
Yeah.
And then also, Christy commented as well about the ongoing fiasco with the Athletics. Again, their situation is also very much confusing. I mean, James, it's so weird. Okay, there's no geographical location. The move has been criticized by every opposing team's broadcast so far during spring training. Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr., James, absolutely pile drove John Fisher on Padres.tv earlier in the season or earlier in spring training. Like, how ridiculous is this that you're going to be the Athletics or the A's, have a patch on for Sacramento, claim that you're playing for Sacramento, but you don't want to be called Sacramento. Now you have this very bogus, dumb, visit LasVegas.com ad on the other sleeve, while also apparently, James, I get it though, but then also having the patch to honor Ricky Henderson's legacy when he was an Oakland Athletic and not a wherever we are, a Golden State or Golden Bay Athletic. James, that whole thing is just going to be so screwy all season, and it's beyond embarrassing, by the way, that Manfred again is stepping in only for the Rays, but again, literally Vegas? Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a break.
Yeah, it's funny. Me, Brandon, and Chris are talking about that on deck on Saturday, on deck on Saturday, where, with Ricky Henderson passing, the A's leaving, it's just been a rough time for Oakland. And just every time they have to deal with this because they're still in the TV market with Sacramento.
NBC Sports California or Bay Area, one of the two.
When I saw MLB Network, it was the Arizona Diamondbacks at Athletics.
But it was in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, and then they had the weekend over there or whatever it was.
Yeah, they had their 2 games in Vegas at the Aviators ballpark.
Yeah,
which
I
again,
noticed that.
James, before you go on, that is what I said they should have done. If you want to say that you're going to be coming to this market, forget the TV revenue from NorCal, go to Vegas and start saying, we will be here. We coming. They're not going to be like Deion Sanders in Colorado about coming, but, start getting the word out there that another major league franchise is coming to Vegas. Summerlin to be exact, but still.
The Raiders did that where they played 3 seasons in Oakland, even though
3 lame duck years, kind of like the Chargers at Qualcomm.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I get this. I haven't seen the site where the stadium is going to be built, but the last time
Vegas
I saw
it's going to be built where the Tropicana wants to
right.
on the Strip.
All I've seen is dirt. I haven't seen anything get built up yet. So part of me is like, is it really still going to happen? Have they started on it yet? They have all these. The new rendering came out, and all they literally did on the top of the stadium is put Athletics. The rendering is literally the same from
and the interior of the dome is still white. Like you're going to be having problems if you're an outfielder seeing the ball in the air.
And that's what happened with the Astrodome when they first opened that up, and they finally had to put like a
giant blackout
color. Yeah,
Yeah,
on the top of the roof. That's what that reminds me of. But that race. I mean, the A situation. I mean, you had no choice to leave. You could have stayed, but you wouldn't. I think also what this comes down to. This would be my final point about both situations, is that it comes down to revenue,
of
because
course.
you have the other 29 teams saying, or 28, I guess,
28.
where okay, these two teams aren't bringing in the same revenue as we are or every other team
I mean,
is.
can we put the Marlins and Pirates in that boat though too? So like maybe
Yeah,
26 teams,
add the White Sox because they don't
25.
draw. It just feels like that there's a lot of teams with a lot of not stadium issues, but either the owners are broke, they don't want to spend, or nobody comes out because the owners don't spend. But it comes down to revenue too, and I think the owners put that on Manfred to say, "Hey, you better get this done because you're taking money out of my pockets, out of my yacht payments that I have to make, whatever the case
House
is."
mortgage, gas money,
Yeah,
the
it
caviar on the flight, the cigars.
yeah, I think the owners finally put that in and say, "Hey, you better get that done because I'm losing future money." And baseball, I guess, is already going away because there's, of course, going to be the television issue going on as
Yep.
well. There's just a lot of issues in baseball, and this is just another problem that has to get figured out.
All right, James. A couple more thoughts here. Christy chimes in that that Ray J, the Raymond James Stadium where the Bucks play in Tampa, is close to
See?
Sunburner Field, where the Yankees will be playing, or where the Yankees played during spring training. Now, where the Rays are playing during the course of the next couple of years. Shout out to our new viewer, Michael Garza, who says, "Go Mariners," and a Ric Flair woo to boot as well. Brandon also says, James, and I've been saying this still on Press Row, just to think that MLB has two teams without a home for 1 or 2, or in Oakland's case, 3 years. Minor league ballparks for the next 1 to 3 to 5 years for some of these teams.
You would have thought that would happen like back in the 40s or 50s or whatever the case is, but not in this era where there's land everywhere or you can buy land, there's more money, more revenue coming in. But this
At the end of the day,
situation,
it boils down to city and county politics. Tell that to the Chargers.
yeah.
And also, of course, Brandon has the trademark, please move the Rays to Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
But the stadium's being
The
renovated,
stadium is
right?
being renovated right now, Brandon, and I think that though we would love to see the Expos back, I don't think we will, sadly, just for the fact of,
No.
there was a proposal I recall hearing about Labatt Field, owned by the Labatt Brewing Company, who makes one of my favorite Canadian beers of all time. And the Molson Group was also involved. And this was like the last ditch effort to keep the Expos in Montreal before they went to Puerto Rico, then to DC in 2005. And even the Canadian government and the Canadian Sports Authority basically said that Stadio Olimpico is not playable for the next several years as they redo the interior of the stadium. So you would have to hope that Montreal can get the summer games again, maybe in the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, or that there has to be deep pocketed Montreal Canadian based owners, especially now with where, sadly, politically where we are right now with our neighbors to the north, that is a factor. I read a story about, how that could affect the NHL because they have 7 teams north of the border, how that all could affect MLS, how that could affect the NHL, the Raptors, even the Blue Jays. That I know, and I think, James, that we recall, though, too, that there was that proposal. The Rays could play 41 games in Tampa and then 41 games in Montreal. I think that either a new stadium has to be totally built in Montreal, or they allow, or once the stadium is renovated, that they allow them to play there, test the market, and then maybe the Rays do move there. But that, I think, is a very, very distant long shot. I think right now what they would do, they would go to the hot commodity markets to see how that would work. And honestly,
Yeah.
because I think that what the Rays will do, it'll be Nashville or Charlotte. And now, and this just came back to me, James, the group in Portland, Oregon also put out new
Mhm.
renderings of their ballpark. I think if Vegas falls through for the Athletics, ship them off to Portland.
I don't, yeah. Uh, there's a lot of other issues in that city, so I don't think a ballpark would be good for them right now.
in Montreal.
No, in Portland. And then you're talking about Montreal. You know how in '03, I think they played half of their home games in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Yes,
And then
2003, 2004, I think.
And then they just ended up leaving after '04. But yeah, I don't think anybody that plays half of their games somewhere else, it's just you deserve to get your team taken away from. I know Kansas City, the Kings did that in NBA, Kansas City and Omaha, because they were trying to
Yes.
get both cities, but you just can't do that anymore.
Yeah, the New Orleans Hornets of Oklahoma City days are long gone, and so are the Tampa Bay Rays of Montreal, though. James, I think you want to counter?
No, I was just gonna think the OKC thing with the Hornets, that was because of Mother Nature.
Yes.
So the Rays would have a right to do it right now. But luckily they found, Steinbrenner Field, as much as it's just it's weird. And the prices, it's like when the Chargers moved up to Carson, the prices for games, I think I saw
they're going to be through the roof because it's a smaller stadium, just like in Sacramento at Sutter Health Park.
Yeah, the cheapest ticket was 36, and then they were just price gouging for opening day. I read
opening
like
day, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the divisional opponents, you name it. The Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Though I think the Rays come out here, I think, to play the Padres in April, I think. So they might be on a West Coast road trip this season. I think we got through all of our comments for that one, but certainly a lot just going on in baseball. Between Garrett Cole having Tommy John surgery, Giancarlo Stanton having double elbow problems, and then the Rays and A's. How fitting, though, that Rays and A's rhyme, and they're both in the same boat when it comes to stadium problems.
Is there anything positive in MLB going on right now that you can think of?
I don't think so, sadly.
see, I'm trying to think. I'm like, all the reporting guys.
Okay. If there is one constellation, Dave Roberts, 8-year extension for the as manager of the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, but I don't like the Dodgers. No, but yeah,
it's the only positive. But in all seriousness, it's the only positive news we've heard all day and over the weekend in baseball, James. Between Garrett Cole, between the Rays, between the A's, between the stadium drama, this bombshell about Stu Sternberg probably having to be forced out of owning the Rays. And Dave Roberts, gets an extension with the Dodgers. I think it was an 8-year deal for $42 million. I think, James, that I heard it, though, on I think in the midday today on 97.3, and I think on 760. I think a lot of people agree, James. If the Padres do their job and actually win the NLDS, Dave Roberts is fired. Simple as that.
Yes, because either he was told or he had a gut feeling to make those pitching changes. But it's a credit to him. Ever since he's been there, they've won the division every year but one. I think it was the 2021 Giants.
Yep.
Who won the division that year. But it's just total dominance of the division, despite the postseason failures. They still have 2 championships or whatever, one. But yeah, I didn't know if he would be sticking around because of the postseason failures. And then the fact he has more wins than anybody Brooklyn and Dodger history. That's like, Walter Alston, Tommy Lasorda, more than Jim Tracy, of course, or Don Mattingly, Davey
Grady
Johnson,
Little for a couple seasons, Glenn Hoffman for a couple of seasons.
It's just weird how it works out, and he's going to be there until he retires. It feels like.
Oh, without a doubt. With that, James, we'll go from all things baseball, all things NFL free agency, man. A whirlwind has gone on in the National Football League as free agency officially opened up, I believe, on Monday, if not over the weekend. But moves have been announced, at least, though. Releases. Sam Darnold goes to Seattle. Your Raiders trade for Geno Smith. The Patriots spend a boatload of money in cachet, while the Chargers dump Joey Bosa but sign Najee Harris over the course of the last couple of hours. All right, James, you're back in football mode. Go for it with what we got right now in the NFL for free agency talk. Go for it, my friend.
Ouch. Yeah, it started out Friday. Oh, yeah, the deadline started at 9 a.m. our time today, but the deals were getting done before that and being talked about. So that's why you saw all the rumors or whatever. But yeah, Geno Smith reunites with Pete Carroll in Vegas, and there's talks of a 4 or 5 year extension with Geno Smith. Personally, I hope it's just a 1 year trial, but I think
Give him the max contract.
Oh my god, dude, like fumbles all the time. He's horrible in the red zone. He wins you games, but he loses you games. He gets big numbers, but they're usually in like comeback fashions, and they'll still win or lose. And that's what I've seen with him in Seattle. And he had weapons, and we'll talk about them later. But you don't have that with the Raiders right now. They don't have the same weapons like they did in Seattle. So, okay, the Ravens re-signed left tackle Ronnie Staley. He's very important because they lost a lineman to Jacksonville. So that was a very, very important move for them. Zach Ertz, who revitalized his career with the Commanders, re-signed for a 1 year deal. The Bills released pass rusher Von Miller. He's kind of maybe a Hall of Famer, maybe not. But I kind of knew that was going to happen. They signed him to a 6 year deal, and I just knew he wouldn't last after 3. But this was just after 2 seasons with Von Miller. And then Myles Garrett had the big, just, I don't even know how to explain it. There was tumultuous feelings between both sides. Myles Garrett, of course, asking for a trade. I think it was about a month ago, and it set the world on.
Recently.
Yeah, and it set the world on fire because it was like, man, if he goes to the Eagles, that makes that front line even more dangerous, and they have the room to do it. But there was teams like Washington that could have asked for his services for trade, but all of a sudden, Jim Haslam says, "Hey, I don't want to meet with you." And I thought we were done with this. And then Myles Garrett was going to be unhappy. He would hold out a training camp. Eventually, in August, they would find a trade partner. But no, the two sides met, and he gets $40 million a year, or averages around $40 million a year, and he gets an extension from the Browns. It's the highest paid non-quarterback deal ever. It goes through 2030. And remember, this was a team that went 0-16, and that was his rookie year when they went 0-16. And he's decided to stay with the Browns, even though he said he wants to contend for a Super Bowl. He wants to go to play for a winner. And you have Deshaun Watson, who isn't playing on your team still. It makes no sense for Garrett, but maybe he did this just to get paid. Maybe this was all mirage, behind the curtain.
Get paid and actually be loyal to the franchise, though the Browns have been, stuck in mediocrity forever.
Yeah, ever since I came back in 99. Aaron Jones re-signed with the Vikings. He gets a 2 year, $20 million deal. I never thought he was going to leave. It was a great deal there. Devontae Adams wanted to play on the West Coast. He got sick of the East Coast, and he'll have to leave his father, Aaron Rodgers, and go play for the Los Angeles Rams for a 2 year deal, meaning he might take Puka Nakua's number 17, maybe not.
What's the asking price going to be?
I love those stories. I see them in baseball all the time.
It happened in hockey fairly recently, too.
And they have big numbers, too. Do they have number restrictions in hockey? Like, anybody can wear any number?
I think goalies can wear or confined to number 1 and then 30, and then I think in the 30s.
Okay, I always wondered that, but that means Cooper Kupp. If nobody wants to trade for him, and it seems like there's now a market for him, because
I believe I saw a report, by the way, James, before we came on the air, that Kupp has been formally released by the Rams.
Yeah, because they realize. Other teams realize, they could just cut him and sign him instead of giving up a draft pick. So teams are really smart about that.
Compensation.
Yeah. Austin Hooper returns to New England. Josh Allen got a
Payday!
Record-setting 6-year, $330 million contract, 250 guarantee, the largest guarantee ever to NFL player, even more than Mahomes, which is crazy. Now Mahomes' contract is bigger, but the guaranteed money is the key there for Josh Allen. So I never thought he was going to leave, but for the Bills to give up that much money, that's just crazy to me. Okay, so more madness happened. I believe it was on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. The Seahawks, who released Tyler Lockett before that, got rid of their other good receiver, DK Metcalf. He is traded to the Steelers. Pittsburgh is sending a second round pick, and then the Seahawks will flip picks six and the seventh round uh, in this year's draft.
And now all that means is George Pickens and DK Metcalf become the next NFL tag team champions when it comes to brawling on the field.
And both wear 14 as of right now.
Oh, great.
Or they're going to have to figure that out.
Listen up, kid. Give me my number.
And the thing is, too, with DK Metcalf going to Pittsburgh, they still don't know who's going to be throwing the ball. Now, one domino did fall. Justin Fields, I feel so bad for him. He goes to the New York Jets for a 3-year deal. Sure, the money is great,
but come on now, it's the Jets.
It's the Jets. They expect him to throw to Garrett Wilson, and he hasn't been known to be a great thrower or even a decent one. They need more than that. So I heard the rumors happening, but still, it's going to be an awkward fit. It may be a sign that Russell Wilson will be back riding with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Evan Ingram probably will be a Denver Bronco. It was a shocking cut by Jacksonville. I think I want to say in the weekend, but it would be a great fit for him. Falcons released defensive tackle Grady Jarrett. He spent 10 years there, and he was selected to the Pro Bowl twice, but it saved $16 million off the cap space for the Falcons, who haven't been busy, but they need to get busy. J.C. Horn agreed to a 4-year, $100 million extension, 70 guaranteed with the Carolina Panthers. It's the highest paid DB deal in NFL history. I thought he was a goner, but the Panthers are actually now starting to keep their good players to stay instead of letting them go. So that was a real shocking move. And unfortunately, Khalil Mack signed a 1-year deal to stay with that team up north. Joey Bosa might join his brother Nick in San Francisco. Those rumors are heating up. Hassan Reddick, remember the Jets couldn't get him signed even though they traded for him in the offseason last year. He signed a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hopefully he can ball out for him because they need to go get him. The Chiefs got some more offensive line help after losing 2 key players. Chris Godwin staying with the Bucs, like I thought, a 3-year deal. Probably end his career like Mike Evans with the Buccaneers. They have both a great career. I think more Evans than unfortunately Godwin's always been hurt, it seems like.
And didn't Evans set like a league record last year for receptions or receiving yards?
I think he's the only one, and he passed Jerry Rice, I think, where he's had 10 straight years of 1,000 yards.
That's what it was.
In the season. And it was funny because it was against the Falcons, I think. Or no,
final game of the season.
No, right. It was against the Saints. And they were worried. They had to get the win to get in. And then they got the ball back, but all they could have was down the ball. But instead, they threw to Evans, and he got the record. It was one of the coolest moments.
Without a doubt. I hate the NFL, but that was cool. That was cool to see. Now,
the next week, though, they were ousted by the Cardiac Commanders in the wild card round.
The divisional doink.
Yeah. Jimmy G is back with the Rams, another 1 year to back up Stafford.
If he's not suspended again.
Oh, that's right. The Panthers was working a deal with Milton Williams, but I think he went to the Patriots instead, and that was a big deal because everybody had him going to the Panthers. Carlton Davis, yeah, the corner. He went to the New England Patriots. He was a Lion last year and a Buck before that. That was a big deal there. Let's see. Another big deal. Oh yeah,
Sam
DJ
Darnold
Reed.
going to Seattle.
DJ Reed, the former Jet corner, went to the Lions to replace the other one that I mentioned. Yeah, Milton Williams ended up signing a deal with the Patriots, the defensive tackle. That was a huge deal. As you mentioned, Sam Darnold gets a
Wow.
3-year, $100 million deal, 55 guaranteed. He has no one to throw to up in Seattle. That's the only problem, except Smith Najiba. They're hoping that Seattle's hoping that they can draft the talented receiver out of Arizona. The name escapes me, but he put up some good numbers in college at Arizona. They're
James,
hoping
if
he's
I can
there.
interject, just to like maybe again, like Brandon Herrera said that CM got paid.
Yeah.
Interesting, probably interesting, maybe not. Am I not surprised? Vikings might talk to Aaron Rodgers to fulfill the prophecy that I said that he would literally follow Brett Favre's footsteps, play for Green Bay, win a championship, go to the Jets and suck, go to Minnesota and suck, then finally retire and get off the face of the earth from the NFL.
Don't forget he has to like take some money away from a volleyball program or something like that. He still has that in front of him.
Just wait, unless he's taking money from his family.
Yeah. Okay. The question I remember people are talking about, yeah, why wouldn't you do that if you're Rodgers? You play indoors most of the time, and you have all those weapons that Sam Darnold was able to get paid from.
And not just that, familiar territory. Green Bay,
Yeah.
Vikings, Chicago, Detroit, like, come on now. Make it
It all
happen.
makes sense. Man, he's 42 though. Tanola Hufanga left the 49ers to go to the Broncos on a 3-year deal. That was very important. And then I thought maybe the biggest deal and maybe the biggest loss for the Eagles is Josh Sweat going to the Cardinals for a 4-year deal. Good for him, but I don't know how good for the Cardinals that he's going to be. Josh Palmer, the former Charger, goes to the Bills, the former receiver that wasn't really used as much as I thought he was going to be. Let's see. Yeah, Sam Darnold again going there, which is crazy to me. Let's see. I know there was some earlier.
Najee Harris to the Chargers.
Najee Harris going to Chargers again. He doesn't really fit what Jim Harbaugh wants, where he wants a tough physical runner. The Steelers literally had to punch it out of Harris to run like that. That's why Warren took his job of starting there. Oh, Eagles traded Kenny Pickett to the Cleveland Browns. I don't know. We'll see if he starts. Tre'Davious Ward goes to the Colts from the 49ers. That's a step down on a 3-year deal, but he did anyway.
How about Laramie Townsend going from Houston to the Commanders for a haul of picks?
That was a big deal because I thought the Commanders were going to go defensively, but they went with offensive line to help Jalen Daniels. Remember, they got Deebo Samuel, I believe, last week. So that was important. Okay, this one killed me. Zach Wilson gets a 6-year, fully guaranteed deal that can grow to $10 million from the Miami Dolphins.
What?
Where does he get $6 million guaranteed as a glorified, bust and backup? That's just amazing to me when I saw that earlier.
I mean, I
today.
guess you got to have all options on the table if Tua takes another shot to the head. Sadly,
that's what I'm
and
thinking.
you hate to say it, but I mean, it's kind of been in Miami's DNA these past 2 to 3 years. If Tua takes one more shot to the head, who knows what happens?
No more, concussions. No. Ryan Kelly, the center who was with the Colts, but he was often injured. He goes to the Vikings on a 2-year deal. That could make Rodgers go to Minnesota. Darius Slayton resigns with the Giants, but they still don't have a quarterback. Maybe Shadur Sanders. Drake Greenlaw, the former linebacker of the 49ers goes to the Broncos. So you have
Is that
Hofinga
the same?
and
Correct me if I'm
Greenlaw.
wrong. Was that the same player who ripped his Achilles running onto the field after a break in the action in the Super Bowl a couple years ago?
That's him. Yeah, that was a
I
horrible,
felt so
horrible
bad for
psychic.
him.
More 49 news. They released Kyle
Use
Juszczyk.
check.
Juszczyk. I see. Once I'm off of football time, I forget names. But Juszczyk tonight will be released or has been released by the 49ers. There's a lot of change with the Niners going on this year. The Saints are re-signing Chase Young to a 3-year deal. Remember, he was a 49er in that Super Bowl that gave up on games, it felt like. Let's see. I think that's all of the big names that I've mentioned. There were some that I skipped because they're not really that important, but already you could just tell after one day. And of course, a lot of deals were made like on the weekend or
For
whatever.
sure. Yeah,
But
deals were already done, just kind of pending, time running out on the deadline before, hey, we can make it official.
damn it, I thought Myles Garrett was gonna go.
It
You
sure felt
know,
that way. It sure did feel that way.
everybody eventually leaves Cleveland.
Unless
Not
you're
saying
Deshaun
that.
Watson and you're stuck there now for your whole career, unless they trade you and eat all the salary.
Ugh, I don't know. I don't know why Myles Garrett would stay. That just amazed me. So that's all the NFL moves. There's more to come, of course, because of some trade requests and some free agents that haven't been signed yet. I'm anticipating the Raiders do some more moves, but offensively they need some receivers. I'm looking
And
for
we
that.
should mention, James, that I believe it was last Wednesday that they re-upped your boy Max Crosby.
Oh yeah, the most at that time a non-quarterback ever got up until Sunday, and what Myles Garrett got. Yeah, that makes him a Raider for life. I always had thoughts that even though he has a Raider tattoo, he grew up in Michigan or born in Michigan. No, he was born in Texas, but he grew up in Michigan. And I think he said on his podcast, or who knows? All these players have like 5 million. I don't even know, but he said
I
if
don't
there's
keep
one
track. I
thing
just
you
keep track of this and press row and press box 1100. That's all I care about.
there was a reel that came up though where he said if I had to play for another team, it would be the Detroit Lions. And I always kept
Having
that
gone to Eastern, didn't he go to like college out
Eastern
there,
Michigan.
Eastern Michigan?
Yeah. So I always kept that in the back of my mind because I'm thinking, well, they just lost Hutchinson in the regular season. They could have pulled the trigger and made that trade. But it's good that he's back, but they lost a lot of secondary lately. Uh, Again, they don't have an offense. Now they have a horrible contract quarterback. They have no running game, no known receivers. Their best offensive player was a rookie tight end who put up great numbers, but not a lot going on for the Raiders. But hopefully something could change. Pete Carroll working his like college magic. I don't know, but obviously the off season is on its way, and the draft is only what, a month away almost.
Feels
April
like it.
24th, 25th, I want to say. So, okay, that's all. Thank God.
Well done, James. Well done with the NFL. Yeah, take a sip of water because now we're going to be moving my man to the NBA. I'm very pumped about this segment, James. We're going to be doing contender or pretender. I have the very schnazzy wheel of death with all teams that are currently in the playoff mix. So 20 teams are in the mix, 10 teams in the East and West. Yeah, James, we'll kind of go contender, pretender, or not sure. And we'll kind of give some brief thoughts. We'll let this thing spin and we'll get to our first team. All right, James, going to start off in the Eastern Conference with a team kind of in the bottom of the standings right now. James, the Miami Heat, contender or pretender?
Now, contending is meaning like for the NBA Finals.
Going to the finals.
Okay, not a contender. Obviously, they had the big trade of Jimmy Butler that hinders their contention for being a contender. um, you're basing your chances on Tyler Hero, and that's it. Bama Bio can only give you so much. Andrew Wiggins is just sitting there. He's not even really playing for the Heat, and that's who you made the trade with for Golden State. Other from that, they don't have much going on. I wish it was on.
I know. I wish we were.
No. Yeah, they're not contenders to me. They're a pretender. They're
Yeah,
like a
I'm
fifth
I'm a,
title.
I'm on the pretender wagon too. I think they're like ninth right now in the Eastern Conference, and I think James that the trade may have helped. Kind of, okay, we got the sideshow out of town finally, but at the end of the day, though, I'm not sold on Miami still. I
Mm-mm.
love Adebayo though. I think Heroes had a very good resurgence this season. They need to do
All-star.
something though in free agency or over the summer, but yeah, Miami pretender right now in the Eastern Conference. All right, James. Next up, your boys, the LA Clippers.
Sadly, I think they're pretenders. They finally was ousted of their regular playoff spot. They're now seventh, I believe, or eighth. Um, Golden State went on a run and made themselves what I'll say later, but now they have the sixth spot, and the Clippers are either seventh, I think seventh or eighth, but I think they're seventh. They had a win against Sacramento and Portland won in overtime last night in Inglewood.
Oh, I watched
So
that game. That was a great back and forth, and overtime was insane. I mean, reviews, challenges. Brian Shaw did a great job, by the way, coaching last night too for the Clips.
was there a reason Ty? I didn't get to
I
see,
never
but
got an answer. I
yeah,
was very perplexed. Like, why is Tyronn Lue not at the game tonight?
yeah.
But B. Shaw
Um,
did a great job. Give him props.
the only the only thing I didn't like about the way that game was is that there was so many stoppages. It felt like a college game with all the reviews of time, fouls, whatever the case was. But going with the Clippers this year, I didn't even know if Kawhi was going to play most of the season, and luckily he's been playing since December, I believe. But he's been in and out of the lineups here. James Harden's been carrying the load ever since they let Paul George leave, which
Oh,
turned out to be a great deal.
Tyronn
Uh,
Lue, by the way, per the Associated Press, missed yesterday's game because of back pain.
yeah, that can happen. Even for a coach, that can happen.
Yeah, I'm
Anyway,
I'm I'm with you though, James, in the same boat. Pretenders for the Clips. I think though they've done a great job keeping things together because Kawhi was out forever. First year without Paul George. I thought James Harden though has done a pretty decent job of helping offensively. Chris Dunn's been an animal defensively. Having Zubac down low really helps. And
yeah,
I this year not quite. I think they're gonna have to take another big swing at free agency over the summer.
they went from like the sixth best defense to the second best lately. And even with losing games and losing ground in the West while the Lakers go up, um, they were going to be known for more of their defense than their offense. When I watched them in the preseason, I've noticed they're running the ball. They're a running gun team, and that kind of helped with the offense where they
That or
score
Harden
a
is going to
lot.
drain the shot clock and take his threes.
And he scored 50 points, I think, the game before. I forget who it was against, but you still have him going off where he could still score 40, 50 points a
And then
game.
he got Kawhi back. I know he's kind of still working his way back to game shape.
But I never thought they were going to be not a play-in team. I thought they were going to be 7 through 10, and unfortunately they fell in this. So they are where I expected them to be, but the record is so much better. But you can only do so much before reality hits you, and it's going to happen to the Clippers in the playoffs where reality is going to hit them. You're not as deep as you used to be. You made your yearly stupid deadline deals
Come
and
on, Ben
Lawrence
Simmons. Come on now.
and he hasn't played in a while, and he
He's
did
had a,
so
he's had a bum
well.
knee. They've been saying.
Yeah, he did well his first two games, and all of a sudden he didn't play again, and I was just pissed about that because it was hope, and then luckily they
Nothing.
got Bogdanovich, but he can only do so much as well. So yeah, the Clippers love him, but
Yeah. I think so is this next team, James. The Chicago Bulls,
oh
barely hanging
god,
on in the Eastern Conference. No thanks.
who do they have even? Kobe White's
You got
been,
Lonzo.
and they just re-upped on him too. It's a good story that he's even back on the court, and I feel so bad for his father that had his foot amputated. I want to say, I think it was the right foot amputated. I might be wrong about that, but it's good to see Lonzo back on the out on the court. Kobe White, I think last Thursday had like a 44-point game. It was amazing to see, and the Bulls. in that horrible ass East, they're still number 10. They keep holding off the Sixers and the Nets off, but they just have a lot of young players, a lot of young European players. They couldn't trade Vucevic. I was real shocked about that. That the Lakers didn't want him, or
And
a
then the
contender didn't want him.
their dumb trade trying to get Mark Williams from the Hornets, and they gave up on their, all-star Dalton Connect, and then the
Oh
trade
my
got rescinded
God.
because of the medical records for Mark Williams with the Hornets.
But I'll tell you what, the move that they made trading Zach LaVine, the Bulls, it finally signified like, okay,
Hi, we're alive.
we're gonna move on. We have it's a down direction, but we're finally saying, okay, we're not like just gonna stay where we are. We're trying to build young pieces. We're trying to just keep that going instead of keeping Levine around and thinking that we have a chance, and you don't. So yeah, they're pretenders. They'll be that for a while because they've been for a while. I just hope they get better in the future.
Yeah, Bulls also a pretender, sadly. Next team up, James. The aging Golden State Warriors. Where are they in your mind? Pretenders or contenders? Contenders or pretenders, I should say.
I love the pretenders. It's funny, like a month ago, this would have been an easy decision, right? Of being pretenders. But Jimmy Butler has basketball joy again. And he's just been amazing with the Warriors. Like everything he was with other teams, the good Jimmy Butler. He's been with the Warriors. No signs of friction with the team, with the players, organization, coaches. He got a new deal like he wanted. I thought him and Draymond Green were gonna, clash and bump heads, and that hasn't happened. And it helped the bench out too because other guys are in their roles, so that's been really good. Stephen Curry has been rejuvenated in a way by Jimmy Butler. And you see Curry, didn't he score, I think, 56 last Thursday in Orlando in a win,
I
I want
believe
to
so,
say?
yes.
Yeah. And, they've climbed out of the play in. Remember, there was a time where they were out of the play in this year. So Curry kept him afloat and he was even injured. And now, getting Jimmy Butler, now they've ascended to the sixth spot. They're trying to get past the Rockets, even maybe the Lakers. But yeah, a month ago I would have said pretenders. But for me, adding Butler there and Curry and whatever they have on the bench, this might be a surprise. You might not agree with me. I think they're contenders. I believe in Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy Butler too, along with Curry and what he can do on every night. And Draymond Green being the enforcer that he is, he just has to tone down the Rodman crap and survive in games and not get thrown out. Uh, but I think they're contenders. I believe that the Warriors can make a run. It all comes down to matchups when you talk about the playoffs, and maybe they can make it through the first two rounds without any issues, but you would have to put them against younger teams the higher you go, and it's all about experience in the playoffs to me. So yeah, I think they're contenders.
My needle was initially in the middle, but I'm kind of leaning this way as what you just said, though, that Jimmy Butler seems like, again, basketball joy's back. Curry's still an animal, 50-point games left and right. I think more importantly that Curry's going to have to stay healthy for them to sustain what they've got going on. So my needle was in the middle, but I think I'm going contender as well for Golden State. We'll move on, James, to our next team on our list for contender or pretender. James, staying in the Western Conference, the Memphis Grizzlies.
They just lost Jaren Jackson Jr. to injury. He should be back, I think, before the playoffs, I hope.
I think they got a big win, though, on Monday over the Suns at home.
They did. They had some of their bench players come up clutch. They shoot the three ball very well, too. And that's what has catapulted them up to the top of the West. Like, not where OKC is, but second through fifth. They've always been around there. They've been hovering around there all season long. and they're almost forgotten about, I think, because of John Morant's off the court issues, but that hasn't been an issue this year. Let's just hope that that keeps going on for the rest of his career. But as long as he's healthy and Jaren Jackson Jr. is, the sky's the limit. They are, to me, damn. Okay, for the finals, they're not contenders. For me, I think they're pretenders. I don't think they can make the finals. I think they would probably need like a Jimmy Butler type to come in and take the scoring load off of Jaren Jackson Jr. and John
Ja,
Morant. They do have Bain. I forget his first name. Harrison Bain. I want to say his name is
Harrison Barnes.
No, that's the other guy. They have a
Oh,
guy named Bain.
Desmond Bain.
Desmond Bain, thank you. He puts up some good games, so he's the reason kind of why they're still there despite the two All-Stars. But Bain has been awesome. But I don't think that's enough to get them in the finals. So I'm gonna say they're pretenders.
I got to agree, sadly. Like I said about the Warriors, you got to have your stars healthy, and having Jaren Jackson Jr. being out, again, adds more to Ja's plate. Is there someone that can help take the scoring load off of him? They're still a very intriguing team, but really can't go that way. Let's stay out west, James, with our next team, the Denver Nuggets, currently now number 2 in the Western Conference at this rate.
I watched him play, I think, on Sunday morning.
I watched them play on Monday. They dropped 140 on Oklahoma City.
Jeez. Oh, that's right. See, I'm not trying to take it. They had a back-to-back with OKC, and they lost Sunday morning in OKC, but you just told me, that you can never trust back-to-backs.
No.
One team wins and one team loses.
Not like a grain of salt almost. Even with a grain of salt. Yeah, I mean, it feels that way, though.
Yeah. But you figure, okay, with a healthy Murray, it gives him a chance with the 3-time MVP Jokic, right? But the only thing is when those guys are off the floor, or if one is injured, like Murray has been, that doesn't help him, of course. But
Russell Westbrook
has come in. He can only do so much. He's getting older, and he's still a firecracker. He's still it's funny when he plays with Jokic. I've noticed, Westbrook has come off the bench to help that bench, but he's had to slow down his play for Jokic, and it's been really good, actually. It's been fun. But I think they've lost so much the last couple of years off the bench that it hinders them.
Especially after winning it all in 23 over the Heat.
Right. So the last 2 years, they lost a lot of bench players that were really good for him. They have Christian Braun, who's having to really take the bench load other from Westbrook. So I don't think he can do it all himself with Westbrook. So I think they're pretenders for me. I don't, man. I think maybe they get to the conference finals, but for me, I don't think they have enough like they did in 23 to get back to the finals. I think they're pretenders.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm still going to give them the thumbs up for being a contender because I think that the West beats up on it. The West always beats up on each other, James. And I think that we have seen this for, I'd say, the last maybe 10 to 15 years, where the West is always so damn top heavy, and the East kind of, they just kind of pick up the pieces. Someone's going to get in with a losing record into the play-in tournament or whatnot. I still think Denver's got a chance, either this year, maybe next season, at least the next 3 years, though. But as long as you have Jokic in charge of that team, I think they're going to be fine. So I think they're still going to be okay. Let's, James, segue out east. The Atlanta Hawks.
Okay. They solidified them being pretenders when they traded away DeAndre Hunter to the Cavaliers. I don't know what the hell the Hawks were thinking. You had a future all-star right there, and
you blow it.
I guess with analytical side came in and said, "Oh yeah, he doesn't mix well with Trae Young."
Oh, you said his name. I better take a drink.
No, he's gonna get his coach back. I forgot about that. Quinn Snyder has luckily survived this season so far. But those trade rumors are still out there for the offseason. Luckily, the Lakers already did what they did. But yeah, I don't. Trey would have to have, Kobe Bryant games like in 2006 for them to make a run. And that's basically all they have. I mean, they have some young players. The first round French player, I forget it, Ratchener,
Hmm.
he's developing, but he wasn't where Hunter is. And that's why I don't get the move. And there's a reason why they're number 9, I think, and the Bulls are kind of right behind them. Everybody's under 500, of course. And for that, they're pretenders. They always be pretenders. It just sucks too because I really want people to get behind that team in Atlanta, but nobody is. Nobody cares. So yeah, they're pretenders forever.
Big time pretenders, sadly, James. For one thing, the Eastern Conference is like a horrible, like chain reaction car crash. Everybody that's still in the running is like at or below 500 in the bottom half of the conference standings. And also, James, I don't know if this is fair, but I think I'll say this. Can we just call the Atlanta Hawks in 2021 when they played the Bucks in the conference final a fluke? Because everyone else that was there all got bumped out in some way. Like that was kind of like Atlanta's one-off year for Trae Young's time down there, it feels like.
Yeah, they were never supposed to get past the Knicks in that first round, but Trae Young was, jeered on by the Madison Square Garden crowd and just went off. If it wasn't for that, they probably wouldn't have got past the Knicks. But remember, Julius Randle, for some reason, just disappeared in the playoffs, and that really helped out the Hawks. But other from that, what have you done for me lately? They've been through 3 coaches.
Results-based business. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, that's what it feels like with the Hawks.
Let's move on, James, to our next team on our contender or pretender. I think, James, I know where you're going with this one in the Western Conference. The Oklahoma City Thunder. I'll give you 2 thumbs up for Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm. Remember my finals pick, OKC over Boston in 6 games. It sounds crazy, but there's reasons why. They are the most together team ever, or at least in recent years. If you ever see their post game interviews, everybody's huddled together. It's amazing. I've never seen that before, unless it
Yeah,
was
they're
like the
like dunking
final.
water on teammates. They're out there having a great time, whether it's, towels on the, putting towels on their teammates or on the sideline analyst for FanDuel Sports Oklahoma. And that, James, I'm glad you brought that up. That gets so overlooked nowadays in sports. It's pathetic. And I have long believed as a player and as a broadcaster, a team has to have great chemistry. I think about the 98 Padres for being that way. This Oklahoma City Thunder team, James, they generally love each other. It's not
Yeah.
guys who, bicker and banter like Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas back in the 90s with the Bills when they were the bickering Bills of the early 90s before they got to their 4 Super Bowls and lost all 4. But these guys generally love each other. Not just that, though, James. The MVP is on this team in SGA.
Mhm.
No questions asked.
Yeah, I was going through this team, I think after the Thunder game yesterday, where I'm like, it's amazing what they're doing together, and they literally have the MVP putting up, I think, an average of 34 points a game. I can't remember what the number was. It's like it's almost close to 30, um, but you also have other teammates like Jalen Williams, the first time All-Star this year. He had a game where he put up, I think, 41 in a win on the road, and he never had a point total that much. But you have Chet Holmgren, who got hurt, and he's been hurt, last year as well. But he's come back and he's been playing sparingly. And he has little spurts where he looks like a young Kevin Durant to me. But Shea's been awesome. There's a reason why he's he's an all-star, and he's going to be He's going to be the MVP this year. The bench is amazing. The starting 5 is, of course, and then you have veterans that have come to OKC and play with these young guys.
Alex Caruso comes to mind.
Harvenstein, the center, former Clipper, King, wherever.
Knickerbocker.
Yeah, New York Knicks, and he's come in and he's anchored the paint there. All these players just fit in so damn well, and they're 10 plus deep, which you never see anymore. And you mentioned about, a team being together. Maybe they're too young to know what's going on right now, or they just don't care about it. But it just seems like now, with social media, with followings and all that, it's best to be, an individual coming up. But this team is acting like, they've been together forever, and it's only been for some 2 to 3 years, if that. But they're really going against the grain when you talk about it. But the way that they pressure defensively, and the way that they're able to make a fast break happen, or if they go half court offense, they have all the people to get it done. Even for me, even against like a veteran team like Boston or the Lakers, whomever they will play, I still think they could beat anybody. And that's what I came in thinking this year. So they're a contender for me.
Same. Again, I think when a team generally loves each other like these guys do, it's a good recipe. James, back out to the East. The Orlando Magic, who I think have done a great job, James, keeping this team afloat with all the injuries that have been sustained by Paolo and a lot of their guys over the course of the season. I don't know if they're contenders just yet, sadly, so I'll go thumbs down. But they're heading in a pretty damn good direction right now, it seems like.
Yeah, this year I had them predicted at the third seed, but in no way, shape, or form did I think that they were going to lose their three best players at one time. And they
And
did that
still
earlier
hold this
this
thing
year.
together.
And still not fall out of the play-in tournament. And now they're trending up, so that's better to see. They just got over the fight. They're hovering around the 500 mark, I should say. But you have the three players there, the Wagner brothers, Suggs and Poncaro, and both are just. I mean, all three players are really good, but it all leans on Poncaro, and then what Franz Wagner can do with the triple threat. Um, I was hoping they would be trending up. I was hoping they would be better than Cleveland this year. But I think with all that time missed and being a young team, I think it just hurts them right now. And Cole Anthony's been really good as well through all the injuries. He gets overlooked, I think. He's better than his father, no doubt, Greg Anthony.
I knew you were going to say that.
Um, they're pretenders, but I hope
another year or two, I think.
With the new year, with the years coming up, I hope they could get some veteran scoring players in there that could really propel them up there where Cleveland is. But right now, they're pretenders.
I say another year or two, probably. We'll see what happens. We'll move on, James, to our next team. We'll stay in the Eastern Conference, and we'll go to the Indiana Pacers. A very surprised team last year in the Eastern Conference, getting to the conference final versus Boston. James, what do you think about Rick Carlisle and crew out there in Indianapolis?
I think they're pretenders, but they've also had some injury issues in the beginning. Halliburton has just been great when he's been able to play. Miles Turner's come back and done well. I'm happy Siakam was able to stay and see what they're building there, and he's been really good this year as well. But I think they just play too reckless at times, it seems like.
Fair observation.
When I watch them play, and especially against, the better teams out there in the East, they crumble, but they're not as established as the other teams out there. That don't mean that they can't go on a run to the conference finals, but I just don't see it this year. They're pretenders for me.
I know that you and I said that maybe it'd be Indiana over Milwaukee in their division. I think that they're going to be in the postseason for sure.
Right.
I would probably agree, though, thumbs down on the Pacers. I just think that the East, though it's very, terrible underneath the bottom 5, bottom 6 or whatever, but you still got the Celtics, you got the Knicks, you still got, other teams out there. So I think if they keep that group together and they also keep Carlisle and I think they're going to be fine. We'll stay out East, James, with your Eastern Conference pick, the Boston Celtics.
You live by the 3, you die by the 3, and this is what they're doing. They've taken the Stephen Curry approach literally and took it personally in every game that they played. They score a lot of points because they shoot a lot of threes. I think what has really helped them this year, despite being the second seed, is Peyton Pritchard being the sixth man, probably of the year, or
Agreed.
in Pac-12 Conference of
Rank.
Champions. But um, I always feel like, man, I've for some reason why I pick them over OKC. I feel like they're gonna have a major injury that's gonna derail them. And Porzingis has been out most of the year, it seems like, and then at any time something can happen to Jaylen Brown or Drew Holiday or God forbid Tatum, Derek White. But they're stacked as well. That's why I have them going to the finals. So for me, they're contenders because they have the championship pedigree. They've been to the finals the last 2 out of 3 years, or 22, and last year, of course. So they're contenders for me. I still think in a 7-game series in the East, they would be favored no matter who they play.
Yeah, they're still, I mean, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Until the Celtics get knocked out in the playoffs, they're contenders. So easy thumbs up for me. We'll move on, James, to the next team for our contender or pretender NBA segment. Staying out East again, James, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Man, they've been so hard to gauge this year. And it only got worse for them because of the Bobby Portis suspension with the drugs he unknowingly took was the wrong name of it, I guess, and who he got it from was a confidant, and you should get rid of him for sure. So that's been a big loss, and it's a big loss going into the playoffs. He would come back, I believe, if they make it to the second round. So with him, I think they're contenders, but without him right now, they're pretenders. Kyle Kuzma, though, I've been so happy for him
Finally
because
got out of DC.
you could just tell the joy, the excitement, the pep in his step, his clothes are better looking. He's not wearing whatever crap. He's been so much better mentally and physically with the Bucks getting out of Washington. I mean, I'm so happy. He's putting up better numbers too. Well, not better numbers, but better.
He's just playing better
numbers.
in general with not being attached to the Wizards.
Yeah, because he was scoring a lot with Washington, but those points don't mean as much as the points he puts up with the Bucks, if that makes sense. You still have Giannis, and then you put Dame in that situation where he could go off just like Curry can. So for me, there's still God. It's good that they got rid of Middleton though. He was never going to be healthy again. And I hate saying that, but it's true. And he had a big contract. I forgot where didn't they trade him to Washington. Yikes. You'll never see
fall
him.
from grace.
Ooh.
Yikes.
I think I'm gonna say they're pretenders just because of Portis being out.
I don't know how to feel about this, James. As much as I love the Bucks, I love Giannis, Bucks in 6 for my bet in 2021 when they beat the Suns. Shout out DJ Shauna too, my go-to girl, who's one of the best DJs in the NBA. I got to give them the thumbs down, James, because they've been too hot and cold for my liking. They had a horrible weekend this weekend at Pfizer, playing, Cleveland beat them pretty good, but they came back being down 15, but couldn't close the gap last night on Sunday. Also, James, very cool like Tibbet. The Bucks are the only team that's ever done this. Can you tell me what it is? They're the only team that has done one feat in the NBA that's never been done, I believe, by any other franchise.
God.
The Bucks are the only franchise to have done this in NBA history, to my knowledge.
The hell? Win a play-in tournament and the NBA Finals?
They're the only team to win an NBA title in both the Eastern and Western Conference.
Oh, yeah. 1971 and 2021. 50 years apart. Duh.
Next team up, James, is the Houston Rockets. I think one of the other good feel-good stories in the Western Conference has been Houston.
Yeah. I think eventually it runs out and it doesn't play in the playoffs. You can only be the bullies for so long until the establishment comes and says, "Hey, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We're going to show you how basketball is supposed to be played." You know, Amen Thompson has been amazing, and of course Brooks has just been himself and
I
put
mean,
up
come
good
on. I would
numbers.
pay for a Houston Golden State first round just to see those two bicker and battle all for us for 7 games. Sign me up.
Imagine Jimmy Butler against Brooks. My God.
Oh man.
Um,
Where's Charles Robinson at from WWE to be the referee? Let's go. I want to see it.
and you know, Adams is really good inside, still going after all these years. You have Fran Van Fleet. I almost said Greta Van Fleet, but yeah, Fred Van Fleet. I'm happy for him and all the veteran presence that he's shown there. They're another team that throws up the three ball a lot and does it well. So for me, they're so young though that they're not going to be used to that first round. I mean,
For
sure they're
sure.
top five right now, but they'll have issues in that first round. I think their first round exits to me. They might be
Agreed.
4-5 with the Warriors, so we might get that first round matchup.
Yes, let's go. I want
It
that.
honestly could
I
happen.
agree. I think they're pretenders, but I think a couple years down the road they're going to be pretty tough to play against. I do think. Let's
Oh,
go
yeah.
back out east, James, to the New York Knickerbockers.
That's like my if I had a
Sleeper
second
team.
team, no, if I had a second team, it'd be the New York Knicks. I just love their history, the good part, the bad parts about it. I don't even know why. I've always enjoyed their history. But what sucks what happened on Thursday with Jalen Brunson, how he
Yeah,
turned
that
it
was.
his
Oh man,
ankle.
that was nasty, and that really sucked.
Yeah, and then the fact that they lost the game in overtime to LA, that just really hurt. And then that's who I think James Harden had 50 against was the New York Knicks in a win for the Clippers. But man, that loss for Brunson, I don't know how long he's going to be out for.
I think that
That's
really hampers their postseason
yeah,
aspirations, though, because he's the guy. I mean, James, I still want to say thumbs up for them, though. I think Thibodeau's done a great job being back there. If wherever he's been, in New York or whatnot. But I mean, just the whole group, though. I think between Randall's bought in. It seems like over the last or when he was there, I should say. But I do think, James, that you and I talked though. This boils down to how Karl Anthony Towns would be playing.
mhm.
He's done a great job so far
Yeah.
holding on to keeping this team afloat.
Yeah. The only thing is they can't beat the Celtics ever in the playoffs and in the regular season. They still
Tortured
can't get
history
them at
playing
home.
the Celtics.
Yeah. So there's just other from 1973. Somehow they beat them in a playoff series to go to the finals.
Hell is frozen
Uh,
over.
yeah, that was that long ago, and I don't think they no in '90. I think they beat them, but anyway, maybe '91. Anyway, I think they're pretenders just because of the Brunson injury, and I really wanted to see him with DiVincenzo because Mikal Bridges he hasn't been as advertised, and when you trade 5 picks away for Bridges to the Nets, and he makes the move to the other borough, it's like he better be worth those 5 picks, and he hasn't been so
And
far this
yeah,
year. Um, we're hoping to see Mitchell Robinson come back, and he did. But it's going to take time for him to be good as a backup big to Karl Anthony Towns. But that Brunson injury just makes me think they're pretenders. And
yeah. I
if they
still
can't
want to
get
give.
if they can't get past Boston, then still they're
That part I
pretenders.
agree with. I still want to give them a thumbs up though, because I mean they've been playing very well this year. I think Cat's done a great job. Brunson before he got hurt. Saying hello real quick to our good man Jack Braun. Let's move on, James, to our next team in the contender or pretender category. Sadly, James, back out west, the
Damn it!
Los Angeles Lakers.
I knew it. Well, when you get handed a gift that that everybody hates, but you're gonna love, um, obviously it's gonna help yourself out. We'll have to see how bad the groin strain is for LeBron. When you walk like that, that's not a great feeling. I've had that before.
You and me both. It ain't fun.
No, um, it just shows you though that they can compete against the big teams, but in a 7-game series, Luka
Especially if you're playing a team with younger legs. Like if you have to get roped in playing a team like a Houston, for example, maybe a Minnesota, maybe, just a younger, younger team in the
OKC.
West. And if you get to the finals somehow, some way, who's not to say that you have to play Cleveland, Boston, or, maybe some other young team out in the East.
Yeah, everybody wants a rematch of what we saw on Saturday, but nobody wants OKC and Cleveland. But yeah, with the Lakers, they have enough to do it. They are contenders to me. Getting
Agreed.
Luka for nothing, well, I guess for something, but you still have
Anthony
LeBron
Davis,
there. Yeah.
Max
Um,
Christie.
I hope Mac Christie turns into something. Damn it. Um, but yeah, they have a lot of bench help. Ruchi Herchimera should come back. Um, Jackson
Jackson
Hayes.
Hayes being hurt, though, does I
Yeah,
think,
that hurts.
in a way, kind of hurt the kind of taped up and kind of like super glued together center position. But James, I agree that this is a contending team. And I think more importantly, James, I said this on Thursday. I was very, very, very kind of, livid about talking about the Mavericks and the trade again last Thursday because I talked about the fact that they raised the ticket prices for season seats by 8% last Thursday on Press Row. And I literally said, I thought, and I think, James, you might recall that I said that I think both teams win this trade. Give me a little bit more for the Lakers winning it. And then I said on Thursday, throw that out the window. This is LA winning this through and through. Nico Harrison, shut up and be quiet, basically. But more importantly, James, I think what the Lakers did was something that I think a lot of teams have failed to do. Plan for life after LeBron James. In regards to, you're not getting bad contracts. You're not stuck, in the lottery for 5 straight seasons. But I do think, though, that LeBron's health will be critical. I think this is a Western Conference final team. But I feel like, though, to make the trade, like, absolutely be a slam dunk victory, it's got to be finals or bust. No questions asked.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The only thing is, can the others step up and help? JJ Redick's been amazing as the first year head coach.
Does he get votes for Coach of the Year?
They can't get the
first. Or does that go to the
seed.
Pistons or Oklahoma City? Maybe.
That's what I've been struggling with. Atkinson with Cleveland since they got the first seed in the East. I think he gets that.
Yeah, I still think the Lakers win the trade, though. I mean,
yeah, no doubt about that.
Initially, I'm like, I think both teams win it. Now, the Lakers win it. Lakers win it. Lakers win it. James, speaking of the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Dallas. Okay, Detroit, I've been loving with Cade Cunningham, the first-time All-Star being picked this year, finally healthy, and you've seen what he's been able to do, and that's been spreading all around the team. All the young guys have been doing very well, Duran, among others. The only thing is I wished Hardaway Jr. would have had a better year. He's not as efficient, but he's been that veteran presence that's been really good. Dallas could need that right now with Hardaway Jr. But
they could use a lot right now in Dallas.
Yeah. The fact that Detroit's better than Dallas right now is just crazy to me.
And more importantly, James, let's talk about the flip and turnaround, man.
Yeah.
Setting a record for the longest losing streak in NBA history just a year ago, firing Monty Williams, still paying him a boatload of cash to not coach the team. Yet, though, James, here they are all of a sudden out of the depths in the cellar of the Eastern Conference to being in a playoff position. What a turnaround. Incredible.
Yeah, Bickerstaff has been there. And
never should have gotten fired in Cleveland. Thanks a lot, Donovan Mitchell.
I hope there's some type of revenge whenever they play Cleveland somehow. But, yeah, I've been loving what they're doing. They had the 28-game losing streak last year and one of the worst teams last year, maybe the worst probably, of last year's season. But this year, it's just been a total turnaround from the start where they're no longer a joke. And it's just something where, every team can get to this point where if there's a little hope, if you have a little hope, and then you bring in the right pieces and you hope it sticks and you have the right motivators, you could do that with the Pistons, what the Pistons are doing right now. And it's just been amazing to see the turnaround. And I would give Coach of the Year votes to Bickerstaff, but mine's in another place. But I'm just happy for Detroit. Pistons were never thought to being good for a while, and this year they've had such a surprise year. I love what they've been able to do.
I mean, for the sake of a segment, pretender, but this has been a great turnaround.
Pretender, yeah.
And you hope that this is not a one-off or a flash in the
Right.
pan. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. Oh, goodness, James. Let's go back to the West, my friend, and talk about the Dallas Mavericks.
Ugh. Oh, God. Where to start?
Double thumbs down. Nico Harrison, be quiet. Go home.
Yeah, I went back and watched your rant on Press Row last Thursday, and I think I watched it on Sunday. Just the magnitude of what has been going on.
And I literally was Nostradamus, James. You sent me a reel, I think, on Sunday night that the Mavericks had 7 healthy players for their home game, and they were calling up guys from the Austin Legends to play in the game, or the Texas Legends to play in the game. Like, it was right.
Yeah, I mean, that's something a G League team does, where they only have. I've seen the San Diego Clippers here have only 7 players to field out there. So, man, when you have just the motion of events going on, you have Kyrie Irving, who loved Kobe, have a Kobe moment at the free throw line last week. When he had the injury, he still shoots the free throws and he walks off the court in tears. I mean, that just by itself was a moment. But it's like a microcosm of what's been going on there with the Dallas Mavericks. You trade away your best player, a once in a lifetime player, that you should keep forever until there's signs where he can't do what he's been able to do anymore. Maybe the sign that he was on a scooter earlier this year, scooting around smiling, maybe the organization just said, we can't have this anymore.
Oh, but it's not about him smoking hookah or drinking beer when games are over.
There's hookah bars in every city, by the way. Hookah is everywhere. Ask Shaq.
We got 3 rings, Chuck.
He loves hookah. But just the injuries with all the big men, and then what Nico's done, tearing down not the team, but just tearing down the biggest piece and alienating everybody. We've talked about it so much. We know that they're pretenders and that.
Double thumbs down, Bubby.
And then in the future, Kyrie Irving was supposed to get paid, this offseason. That might have to get delayed and he might have to go somewhere else. They are committed to him, but I don't know anymore. So the future too isn't bright because, okay, you can tank, but for free agency with the Luka trade, why would anybody go there? Yeah, why would anybody go there thinking like, oh, I can't grow here because you saw what happened to Luka, that could happen to me. That could happen to anybody. But in that situation, that would never ever happen. Like 2K would have rescinded that trade. It would be unfair. But they're, like you said, pretenders, two thumbs down. The fact that
maybe 2 other fingers get put up too, if that as well.
I would. The fact that there's rumors that they might leave if they don't get their casino deal. It's just a damn mess.
Las Vegas Mavericks? That'd be interesting. Got a pretty good ring to it.
It goes with it, but you can't leave Dallas. That's a big ass market. There's no way you can leave Dallas.
I said my piece on Thursday. James, we'll move on to back to the Eastern Conference. Your other pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers. 2 thumbs up for you.
What's hurt me about this is that, hey, they're having a tremendous year with Atkinson, my pick of the coach of the year for the NBA. But the only thing is the previous years in the playoffs, right? Losing to New York in the first round and the way that they lost last year and totally blaming it on the coach before Bickerstaff and ousting him. And then players got re-upped, like Mobley and Mitchell to stay. And then Garland's having an all-star year. All 3 of those guys were all-stars this year. And they've been trading wins and losses with with the
Celtics.
Celtics this year. I've noticed that, and it's been like road wins too. So that tells me it might be an interesting 7-game series, but I'll still put the Celtics over them,
Same.
despite whoever has home court advantage. It would be the Cavs that would have home court, but I still would trust the Celtics over Cleveland. So I think with everything going on still with the Cavs this year, and I love the story, I still think they're pretenders to me.
Oh my goodness!
Sorry.
What a heel turn. This is worse than John Cena attacking Cody Rhodes at the Elimination Chamber in Toronto a couple weeks ago. James going Cavs pretenders?
Yeah.
You know what, James? I'm on your side. Give me a thumbs down, even though I said 2 thumbs up, because, James, why does all this winning in the regular season tell me they're not going to do crap in the playoffs? This happens all the time, I think, James, when it comes to teams who win that de facto regular season championship and they bomb out in round 1, maybe in round 2. They don't win at all. At Inter Miami and MLS last year, like 75 points, a new record, losing in 3 games to Atlanta. You know, the President's Trophy in the NHL has had that long-standing curse that if you win the top overall seed and the best record in the NHL, you're usually not winning it. It has not happened, I think, in 15 years or 10 years, I think, or 10 or 15 years that the team or a team in the NHL did not double up, win the President's Trophy, and then win the Stanley Cup. So I may have gone like this, but I'm going to have to go like this right now because I think, James, this is either a flash in the pan or it's we did all this winning for nothing.
Yeah, that's what I see that as, and just the playoff history would tell me differently, unfortunately. And as much as we love Donovan Mitchell in the league, he doesn't get enough love, but he hasn't had that postseason success. And if he gets over the Celtics, then I'll be quiet forever about him.
We have 2 teams left, James. Our next stop is in Minnesota for the Timberwolves.
It feels like they're missing something that they used to have. Oh yeah, Cat. Yeah.
Anthony Edwards has an ego problem now.
Yeah, I mean it's not as bad as what. Well, we know someone who just goes after him on a show. That I think it's just overboard, right? I know he had that thing. What was the last? What day was it?
Wasn't he just like suspended a couple weeks ago for like a certain amount of technical fouls?
And then he threw a ball in the stands when he was getting thrown out against the Lakers. I don't think it's as bad as what people are talking about. I mean, sure, he can talk crap with the best of them, but he's not going like full Rodman, right? He's not like actually fighting with people or fans,
kicking camera guys in the nuts.
not to that extreme just yet. That did happen in Minnesota, by the way. I forgot all about that at Target Center. But anyway,
Rodman kicked the camera guy.
Kevin Harlan. Man, with Cat, they'd be a year older.
30-second timeout. We have a great comment from Brandon Herrera, James. Wolves are going to retire A-Rod's number.
Oh, my God. I can't believe that crap went through.
Oh, my goodness.
Because, remember what the Taylor, ownership was saying right away, that the A-Rod folks would come in and shed payroll. And they already did.
Move the team to Seattle.
That's always a problem, too. But I hope that's not the case. I want confirmation.
Oh, that's great, though, Brandon. A-Rod.
That is good. Prize coming your way. I don't know what. But no more snow for the rest of the time this year.
Wolves are a pretender, sadly. I think they got again, I like their group. I do want Edwards, though, to kind of tone down the antics a little bit, though. I think it does in a way. Because I think, James, like Draymond Green, for example, when you get kicked out of games or you get suspended during the playoffs, that brings your whole team down, and it makes you look extremely selfish and look like a bonehead.
I would just hope, I can tell this, though. Mike Conley Jr., he's been the one guy on the team to kind of like tell him to calm it down. And I think eventually that's going to come to light in the playoffs. Rudy Gobert just...
Gobert for 3, bang.
I wish they didn't trade for him. And then they trade Cataway, which is just still puzzling.
But to your point though
Davinchenko's been injured
but to your
too.
point though about the new ownership coming in, and like you say, Glenn Taylor, like, hey, these guys are going to tread payroll, like, enjoy it while you can. And sure enough, look what happened. James, our final team on the list, the Sacramento Kings.
I was like, who is left? Okay, they're pretenders. I can see that on Sunday.
You fire Mike Brown, you're an automatic pretender because you can't be firing people who worked or who played at the University of San Diego. Sorry.
Ever since then, it's been awkward. And then De'Aaron Fox wants out, and he goes back home to Texas, to San Antonio.
And then he made the very smart ass comment. Well, it's not my job to build the team. That's why I got Mike Brown fired. Blame him and blame the damn front office.
I didn't know he said that.
Like, really? Come on, man. That's so stupid.
Yeah, the ownership there just has a stranglehold on the players and coaches. It's just too much. It's been proven, that owner there. He wanted the Kings one time to run a 4-on-5 offense. I kid you not, where there'd be one guy defensively back and they would play 4-on-5 every trip down the floor. I always keep that in mind whenever the owner talks about the team or does anything. Anyway, losing Fox via trade and Sabonis via injury, that makes it really shorthanded. Really you're the Bulls of like 3 or 4 years ago, because you have DeRozan, who you got via trade, and then you have Levine coming over via trade. So it's like you're the Bulls from the last 4 or 5 years.
Bulls West.
Yeah, where you're scoring, but you can't defend anybody, and they have some key role players, but they don't have enough to really compete. So for me, the Kings, I think they're going to miss the playoffs again. What was it? They didn't go to the playoffs.
18 straight years without making the playoffs. It was the longest streak in the NBA.
And then they did 2 years ago? They missed out last year. They're going to miss out this year and start a new streak.
And they also canned Mike Brown, who was coach of the year when they broke that 18-year drought. They had to play Sacramento, or they had to play the Warriors, I think, in the first round, and lost in 7 games. And that whole organization's just a dumpster fire. I mean, and all that kind of thing kind of goes at the feet though of De'Aaron Fox. Well, it's not my job to build the roster. What are you talking about? We'll go, James, from the NBA to recapping a record-setting 54 trade-made NHL trade deadline that came and went this past week. We'll kind of retrack to a couple days ago, then talk about the actual deadline. We'll start, James, back on March 4th. That saw the Oilers acquire Trent Frederick, Max Jones, and Peter Hauser in a 3-team trade involving the Bruins and Devils. The Bruins got defenseman Max Warner, a 2025 second-round pick, and a 4th-round pick in the 2026 draft, while the Devils acquired forward Shane LaChance in that trade. The Panthers acquired goaltender Vitek Vanacek from the Sharks for forward Patrick Giles. The Lightning acquired and brought back home Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gord, and also as well claimed defenseman Kyle Aucoin, a 5th-round pick in the 2026 draft in a 3-team trade involving Tampa Bay, Seattle, and Detroit, while the Kraken acquired forward Mikey Asimon, a 2nd-round pick in the 2025 draft, a conditional 1st-round pick in 26, and a conditional 1st-round pick in 27, while the Red Wings acquired a conditional 4th-round pick in 2025. The Sharks also made a trade with the Pittsburgh Penguins, acquiring veteran defenseman Vincent Desharnais for a 5th-round pick in the 2028 NHL draft. The Predators acquired forward Michael Bunting and a 4th-round pick in 26 from the Penguins for defenseman Luke Shen and forward Tommy Novak. The Panthers were also aggressive on March 6th. They acquired forward Nico Sturm and a 7th-round pick in the 27 draft from the Sharks for 2 more picks, or for 1 pick in the 4th round of the 2026 NHL draft. The Devils acquired veteran defenseman Brian Dumoulin from the Anaheim Ducks for 19-year-old prospect and forward Herman Troff and a 2nd-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. The Jets got goaltender Chris Dreger from the Panthers for goaltender Capo Kakkonen. The Golden Knights brought back a original misfit of their inaugural season, Riley Smith from the Rangers, for forward Brendan Brisson and a 3rd-round pick in the 25 draft. The Rangers also acquired Carson Soucy from the Vancouver Canucks for a 3rd-round pick in next year's draft. The Wild acquired forward Justin Brazeau from the Bruins for forwards Marat Khrushnikov alongside Jakub Laku and a 6th-round pick in the 26th NHL draft. The Avalanche were also very aggressive on the 6th of March. They acquired forwards Brock Nelson and William Dufour from the Islanders for forward Cal Ritchie, defenseman Oliver Shillington, a 1st-round pick in 26 or 27, and a 3rd-round pick in 28, while the Ducks acquired Shillington from the Islanders for future considerations in that trade. Made the Oilers stocked up defensively by getting Jake Wallman from the Sharks for a conditional 1st-round pick in the 26th draft, and forward Carl Berglund also being sent to San Jose. The Capitals added some scoring depth by acquiring forward Anthony Bolivier from the Penguins for a 2nd-round pick in 2025. The Senators acquired forward Dylan Cousins in defenseman Dennis Gilbert for a second-round pick in 26 from the Buffalo Sabres for longtime Senators forward Josh Norris and defenseman Jacob Bernard Docker. The Kings acquired once traded forward Andrei Kuzmensko and a 7th-round pick from the Flyers for their 3rd-round pick in 2027. The red-hot Winnipeg Jets acquired defenseman Luke Shen from the Penguins for a 2nd-round pick in the 26th draft and a 4th-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft. The Red Wings acquired goaltender Peter Mrazek and forward Craig Smith from the Blackhawks for one forward and Joe Veleno in that trade that was made. The Blue Jackets then acquired forward Luke Cunnin from the Sharks for a 4th-round draft pick in the 2025 draft. The Jets were also active by getting Brandon Tanev, a veteran forward from the Seattle Kraken, for a 2nd-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft. The Maple Leafs were also active, getting forward Scott Laughton, a 4th-round pick in next year's draft, and a 6th-round pick in 27 from the Flyers for forward Nikita Grebnikin, and a 1st-round pick in the 27 NHL draft, while the Devils acquired defenseman Dennis Cholowski from the Islanders for forward Adam Beckman. The Avalanche, though, made another huge splash, though, for acquiring Bruins forward Charlie Coyle, part of a massive Boston exit party. A 5th-round pick was also in that package deal from the Bruins for forwards Casey Middlestat and William Zellers, and a 2nd-round pick in the 2025 draft. The Avalanche also brought home veteran defenseman Eric Johnson from the Flyers for forward Giovanni Smith. The Rangers acquired forward Nicholas Abu-Kabel from the Sabres for defenseman Eric Bronstrom. The Blackhawks acquired forward Aku Rati and a defenseman named Victor Soderstrom and Shea Weber's contract from the Utah Hockey Club for a 5th-round pick in the 2026 NHL draft. Then, of course, the big one, the Dallas Stars somehow, some way, pried away Mikko Rantanen, who then became a very disgruntled player in Carolina, for forward Logan Stankoven, a conditional 1st-round pick in the 26th draft, a conditional pick in the 28th draft, a 3rd-round conditional pick in 26, and a 3rd-round pick in 2027. Then the Stars extended Rantanen for an 8-year contract worth $12 million annually with AAV. Furthermore, on the trade deadline day on Friday, the Devils acquired Cody Glass and John Gruden, not the Gruden that you're thinking of, James, from the Penguins for forward Chase Stillman and Max Graham in a 3rd-round pick in the 2027 draft. The Hurricanes then acquired forward Mark Jankowski from the Predators for a 5th-round pick in the 26th draft. The Devils then acquired forward Daniel Sprong, trying to fill voids for Jack Hughes' season-ending shoulder surgery on the season. Sprong comes from Seattle for a 7th-round pick in 2026. The Bruins then acquired defenseman Henry Jokaharj from the Sabres for a 4th-round pick. The Senators then also snatched up forward Fabian Zetterlund and Tristan Robbins and a 4th-round pick from the Sharks for forward Zach Ostachuk and longtime former Shark prospect Noah Gregor and a 2nd-round pick in 2025. The Penguins then dealt away and acquired Connor Timmins and forward Connor Dewar from the Flyers for a 5th-round pick in 2025. The Devils then racked up and stocked up on forward Mark McLaughlin from the Bruins for forward Daniil Mishlu. But, James, the one, though, that rocked the boat, that was not seen, coming out of nowhere, the Florida Panthers, the defending champion Panthers, James, make the trade at the final horn of the deadline and acquire longtime Bruins captain and acquire a thorn in their side. I'm talking about Brad Marchand, the Bruins captain, dealt in division from the Bruins to the top team right now in their division, the Panthers, for a conditional 2nd-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft. And then to round out the trade deadline, the Maple Leafs acquired defenseman Brandon Carlo from the Bruins for forward Frazier Minton, a conditional first-round pick in the 26th draft, and a fourth-round pick in 2025, while the Leafs also acquired forward Reese Johnson from the Wild for future considerations. So, James, winners in this, the winners, Florida, Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg are my 4 winners. The losers in all this, James, Carolina, Boston are the only 2 that come to mind. This was a very chaotic day, James. Again, 54 trades made, though, but certainly the hockey world, I think, James, was jaws dropped when they heard that Brad Marchand was dealt to the Panthers. Again, in division trade made by a tanking team, James. Like I said, this is the Boston exit party. Brandon Carlo, Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, all dealt away from the Bruins. Don Sweeney and Cam Neely are just basically, James, tearing this down to restart up from square one next season. But I do believe, James, Dallas, Colorado, Winnipeg, and Florida all win the trade deadline. And I think, though, if you're the Hurricanes and if you are also the Bruins, I think you're kind of looking in the mirror and have to face your fan base, kind of like Nico Harrison. What are you guys thinking about it? Well, what are you guys doing? James, your reaction to this year's trade deadline, because a lot of moving parts happen over 54 trades over the course of the week, let alone on trade deadline day in general.
Yeah, I was told Friday was going to be a whirlwind, and it was blowing more than that. The one thing that I heard, and that maybe, I don't know if it's true or not, is that Edmonton did not get their goalie that they needed to go forward. What do you think?
They did not. I think, James, they might be kind of in the loser category because they were talking so much about goaltending. They have not been impressed with Stuart Skinner and even Calvin Pickard over the past couple of games. Now, again, like I think I said, though, on Monday last week, though, leading up to the deadline, there was some talk that the Ducks may have looked at dealing John Gibson to the Oilers, again, individual opponent. But again, the Oilers, though, are right now against the salary cap by leaps and bounds of the imagination, James. And the asking price would have been probably a top pick somewhere from the Oilers and salary relief. And that was not going to be what the case was. I think the Ducks were going to be on the hook for about $3.2 million over the next 2 seasons to send Gibson out of town, and it never came to fruition. And the Oilers, I think, kind of other than getting Jacob Wallman back, not I'll get a good return there for the Oilers.
Okay, so do you think the Oilers are going to have a strategy where they're just kind of try to outscore whoever they play in the playoffs? Is that what they're thinking, not getting a goalie?
They're going to have to. I mean, if history repeats itself, they're going to be facing the Kings again in round 1 of the playoffs again, if that's the case.
And then speaking of Los Angeles, it seemed like they didn't improve their offense to get to the next level to beat Edmonton. Do you concur with that?
I do concur with it, though. I think that the Kings are still fine when it comes to that. I think that they're still getting goals, though. I mean, they're still getting guys who score again. They got Fiala, they've got Kempe, they've got Byfield, who, again, I said would have a breakout campaign and maybe go for 70 points earlier in the offseason. And, of course, you got Andrzej Kopitar, and he's a workhorse, but I still think, though, that they could have used just one more depth piece. And, okay, Kuzmenko is okay, but he's kind of, though, been lost in the shuffle, James, because he's been kind of like a bona fide AHL minor league. I've seen him a lot. I saw him a lot when he was in Calgary with the Wranglers, with the Flames organization. He was always down usually in Calgary, and you hope he's not like one of those AHL busts who gets up there and doesn't produce.
Now, let me ask you this. Does it feel like for the second year in a row that Detroit didn't do anything, that they just stood pat?
Oh, man, and they are getting, and Steve Yzerman, James, is just getting plastered. His news conference at the deadline was, I feel okay with where we're at right now. And, it's my job to make the team better, and we're going to ride with these guys. And, I mean, he was taking a lot of heat, James, from the Detroit press who was interviewing him and stuff. And I could tell he was getting frazzled. Like, he knew he should have done more, and he dropped the ball in a big way.
Didn't that used to be Hockey Town, or am I tripping?
Yeah, that still is. But, again, they were in the playoffs for 25 straight years, and then, whoop, see you later.
And then, okay, the Pirates, the Penguins.
Close enough. They're black and gold.
Sure. Does it feel like they're starting to rebuild around Crosby the right way? Like, how long do they have before they could really start being possible contenders again?
I put them kind of like in my like tier 2 when it came to winners, because 31 draft picks picked up over the next 3 years with all the trades that they've made. Like, they have stockpiled a lot of future assets. I think Kyle Dubas has a plan. I think that the flack he's been getting has been a little bit too much. I know that he was looking at a huge return for Ricard Raquel, who's been a top 5 scorer for Pittsburgh this season, who was a one-time Duck, but the price was just not there for him to do it, though. But I think that their main thing, though, has to be getting younger. And there's not a lot in the pipeline with their affiliate, though, in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Though I think they've had a great year, though, in the AHL with their affiliates, though, in Scranton, PA. But I think that they're doing it as best as they can right now. I think when you stockpile about 30, 31 draft picks over the next 3 to 4 years, that is a pretty good starting point. But like I usually say, though, draft picks don't win you games here and now.
You said Scranton. I hope to go by Dunder Mifflin. Okay, you mentioned with Boston, it just feels like a tumultuous last couple of years, and the fans,
big time.
You have to be reeling for them because they were always, they haven't won the title since what, 2011?
2011.
But it feels like they've been so close and then something happens. Now, that type of trade you mentioned, I'm sorry, what's his name? Went to Florida. Marchand
right? Going to Florida, yeah.
I'm trying to think of an in-division trade that dealt with a big star getting traded within division recently. I'm trying to remember
if you want to say Matt Kent to the Padres in 2015, you could.
Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to put that in because I know it happens in hockey, I think, the most, and then baseball probably a second. It really happens, I think, in the NBA. But I was just shocked when I heard that because that's the name from the Bruins if you don't know much like I do. But to make Florida maybe looking like the Bruins of the old, where they're tough, you don't want to face them, Bruins. They'll check you. And now it seems like Florida has become the Bruins of the South. I don't know. It just seems like that.
I mean, when you literally have a line that they're calling the rat line of Marchand, Matthew Tkachuk when he comes back, and Sam Bennett, I agree.
That's all I got. That sounds fun. I can't wait for the playoffs to come up, and it's the best, purest form of hockey that's out there.
We'll move, James, from all things hockey to all things MLS. Week 3 in the books. We'll start things off in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the round of 16. Cincinnati drew with Tigres 1-1 in Cincinnati on Tuesday. LAFC clobbering the Columbus Crew 3-0 in their round of 16 matchup from BMO Stadium on Tuesday. Also happening on Wednesday up in Carson, California, the LA Galaxy just cannot win a game whatsoever. They were ousted in the round of 16 against Herediano, 1-0 in their round of 16 matchup. Seattle and Cruz Azul tied 0-0, while Vancouver and Monterrey also tied 1-1 on Wednesday. On Thursday, Inter Miami defeated Cavalier FC 2-0 in their round of 16 matchup. Back to the nitty-gritty, though, of Week 3 for MLS. Columbus and Houston played to a 0-0 draw on Saturday. Seattle pounding LAFC from Lumen Field 5-2. Atlanta and the Red Bulls played to a 0-0 draw. Cincinnati doubles up Toronto 2-0. DC over Kansas City 2-1. Philadelphia still remains unbeaten as they shut out New England in New England 2-0. NYCFC over Orlando 2-1. Colorado defeats Austin 1-0 on the road in Austin, Texas. Chicago defeats Dallas again 3-1. The Fire scored 3 goals in 9 minutes to defeat the longtime rivals in Dallas to retain the Bridgestone Cup between the two clubs in their rivalry matchup. Nashville over Portland 2-0. San Diego FC does it again, James. They go on the road and beat Real Salt Lake in 30-degree weather, 3-1 San Diego. Check that out right there. As SDFC without Chucky Lozano gets 3 goals after falling behind 1-0 after 17 minutes of play. They get the game-tying goal from Franco Negri in the 43rd minute, and then the Ice Cream Man delivers again, and Anders Dreyer in minute 91 with the game-winning goal, and then Marcus and Bartson with the dagger in minute 96. San Diego now 2-0-1, tied for first place in the Western Conference table. Also in MLS action, on Saturday night. Vancouver doubled up Montreal 2-0 from BC Place. And then Minnesota United, the Loons, shut out the Quakes 1-0 from PayPal Park in San Jose. Then on Sunday, just 2 games on Sunday, Inter Miami defeats Charlotte 1-0. And St. Louis City shuts out the LA Galaxy 3-0 from Carson. The Galaxy 0-3 with 1 goal scored in 3 matches so far on the season. So, James, that is your week 3 recap of MLS, my friend. Any thoughts you want to pass along?
You said St. Louis City. That's the
Yes.
name of their team, the club? I didn't know that. Okay. And I heard that they have a nicely placed stadium.
Beautiful
Kind of
stadium.
near everything in downtown.
Energizer Park.
I love that name. Oh, that'd be a great place if the crowd's going wild. You have an Energizer Bunny running around the field before the game.
I can believe it.
I would love that.
Yeah, no, I've heard great things about their stadium though in St. Louis.
Yeah, I only heard it from Riley, but that came to mind because I'm thinking St. Louis and soccer. Well, they have nothing else until the Cardinals, but the Cardinals
in St. Louis back in the day when and I always like compare when indoor soccer, when the Sockers, were, when that league was at the apex in the 80s, the St. Louis Steamers and Storm were drawing better than the Blues were back in the day at the Checker Dome. So St. Louis has had a very, kind of a under the radar soccer, history. More importantly, James, San Diego, St. Louis, 2 cities that lost the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And they both love soccer.
That is a name. Yeah, it's shocking to see the champions winless and only scoring 1 goal. That's kind of a shocker. The fact that San Diego is in first place, being an expansion team,
tied for first with, I believe, Vancouver,
losing what's his name, Lozano.
Lozano.
Losing him. Do you know how long that injury is?
The reports have been kind of fluctuating between 1 to 3, 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay. I hope to see him at a game, of course, where we'll be. And
May 14th.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get out that. And then, I'm just hoping the season still continues well for them and, bad for the Galaxy. And see what happens. Oh, what is Messi playing right now for Inter Miami, or is he somewhere else?
So last week, I believe that they were set to play the Houston Dynamo in Houston, and Lionel was held out kind of like for load management situations. And because the Dynamo had sold out, they sold out tickets. They being Houston, the Dynamo, put out a statement that, we know that a lot of fans wanted to come see Lionel play. Because he's not playing, we will offer you a complimentary ticket if you would like to have a refund because you paid your money to see him play and he's not playing. So props to the Dynamo franchise for doing that.
Hey, NBA, take notes.
No shit.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Okay. We're going to go to a game, and if Messi ever came out here and he's not playing, I'd be pissed too.
James, I'm pissed that they're not even on the schedule for San Diego this season.
That's awful.
That was, I think, what really, I think, kind of irked me the wrong way was the fact, how do you not send the best? And I told this, James, when I was at the Clipper basketball game that you weren't at, which was like weird because, we could have been courtside at that game last Sunday. But I told my friend Christian in CISO, him and I worked together for the Sockers for over a decade together. And I even asked him at Junkyard, your spot over there by Front Wave, and Christian's my soccer guru, and he's my soccer analyst in a way, kind of soccer friend in general. But I asked him, if you're a league though, how do you not send the best thing going for your league to the newest market in San Diego? Like, come on now. That's the only way to get that league really going is to have the best of the best come to your cities, come to your markets, and bring up that market. That only makes sense. Either way, I'll take it. San Diego's 2-0-1, 7 points out of a possible 9 on the season. Going to go for win number 3 on Saturday at home versus the Columbus Crew, who will be in town at 7:30 p.m. at Snapdragon Stadium here in San Diego. All right, James, we'll move on now, my friend, to our favorite topics of the night, the off-the-board topics. It's where we get to talk about 1 or 2 things that we're not talking about on the show tonight. James, what do you got?
It's funny. Before the show, we had the same topic. So Whatever. All right, so last Wednesday night, Jay Billis was on the call when Florida met Alabama in the SEC clash. I think Auburn beat Alabama in overtime, I think, on the weekend to secure the SEC championship, or at least the regular season championship. So it's been a pretty good year for the SEC in basketball. But anyway, Jay Billis, the analyst for that time on ESPN in that game, was asked if he would like to see some rules changed. Well, one in particular he was asked about was late game timeouts resulting in the ball being advanced to half court, like the NBA and like the women's college basketball does. And I'm thinking, okay, if they all do it, they should do it. And then he mentioned two other rules. He went on a little tangent or whatever. But he said, we need to go to quarters like the women's do, like the women's college basketball does. He says, quote, we're the only game of basketball played in the world that doesn't have quarters. The reason I like it is that because you can reset team fouls at the end of the first and third quarters. It's just a smart thing to do. I agree with him. I would also like to see the fouls go from 5 to 6 in the women's game. I think in the men's game they moved. Did they move it up? I cannot recall if they did. But another rule.
The men are still seven
five,
for a single bonus, 1 and 1, and then 10 fouls for 2 shots.
I'm sorry, individual fouls for that player.
Still at 5.
Still 5. I want that to be moved to 6. We saw that in some big games. Juju, I believe, was in foul trouble. Well, there was another. It wasn't Paige Buckers, but it was another game I saw where one of the women's star players were in foul trouble and had 2 fouls and had to sit out most of that first quarter, I should say. And then another rule Jay wanted to change was officials using replay. Instead of referees walking to the monitor every 2 minutes. He wants a challenge system to be in place, one similar to the NBA, where they have, a couple of challenges, and if they get it right, they can retain the second challenge. He says, quote, we have to change the replay rule, make it like the NBA, give each team one challenge, and if they get the first one right, they get to keep it for one more, and then that's it. It seems like the referees, like he mentions, they're always over there watching television, like Ralph Lawler would say, more than the actual game at some points. There's always about the clock, how many seconds are left. If it's a 3 or 2 pointer, always something like that. And then there was one more thing too. The TV timeouts. I think it's after the 8-minute mark when there's like 2 consecutive timeouts, it seems like, in a row.
In men's college basketball, it's under 16, 12, 8, and 4.
I wish they would. I hate
And
those.
I always get confused when I do college games because in the second half, first call timeout turns into a media timeout.
That's the one. I do not like how quickly the game has to stop in those 2 timeouts. I just don't. So would you agree with Jay Billis with all the rule changes he wants to make and then the ones that I put in?
Oh, without a doubt. I absolutely think that men's college hoops has to adapt to the changing times. I mean, if women's college basketball can figure this out and align with the WNBA and align with, FIBA, what's keeping men's college basketball stuck in the stone ages of 2 20-minute halves? And I think, James, that it just feels like a lot that it feels like the game always drags on in men's college basketball, especially, James, when you keep having teams foul when the game's already out of reach. Like, stop. But yes, I agree, though, that it's long overdue, though, that men's college basketball adapts or adopts the, 4 12-minute quarters if need be. I know that the NBA even said a while back, we might do 10-minute quarters. No, keep it at 12. Keep it at 12. But adapt it to make these kids ready to go pro. Because eventually, and I know that globally basketball is a 10-minute quarter game, but I know that the NBA loves their 12 minutes, though. I think, James, that it needs to be done. And I will say, I would love, though, for the NBA to adapt the NBA G League free throw rules after seeing it in person
Yes.
on Sunday. I love that. One shot for 2 points.
Or 3.
Or one shot for 3 points.
I like that. Thinking about the leagues in the past, college and pros, the NBA used to have a free throw rule where I think over a certain limit, you would you would be able to shoot 3 free throws to make 2 points. And it was just confusing as hell watching these old games. It's like, why is he being able to shoot, on a shooting foul, and you're in the bonus, so you get to shoot 3 free throws to make 2 points. And it was just, then they got rid of it. And then also when I think about college basketball, they were playing without the shot clock forever.
Yeah.
And then they finally adapted a 45-second shot clock.
45 seconds?
Yeah, and that was too long.
Oh, my goodness.
And then they kept going down and down and down to where it is now at
30.
30? Yeah, at 30.
It's universal, 30 seconds across men's and women's college hoops.
And now that's better. You don't have those long possessions where they're just,
how would you feel about the shot clock going to
play.
25 or 24?
I would love that. Would adapt to what you're saying, the pro style, and I would like that. And then the 3-point line. Okay, I saw this game back in, I think, 1982.
Pointer James Gonzales.
I would try it. I think it was UCLA and North Carolina in 82 or 83, 84. I can't. No, it had to be 85 because it was Reggie Miller and Kenny Smith, without Jordan, of course. So anyway, they wanted more scoring, but they didn't want to put in a shot clock. So they made the free throw line shorter than the top of the key, like almost near the 3-point line, and it would just curl around and just look so out of place. And now you have the 3-point line, past that top of the circle line. Do you think there's ever a time where they extend it to the NBA line, or they extend it a little bit before the NBA line, like further than where it is now, the 3-point line in college, to adapt to the pros?
Doubtful.
Yeah.
I think they're going to want to try to keep it as much amateur involved as they can. But there are tweaks that have to be done, though. I agree.
Yeah, I was just another game I watched. I think it was the '85 final between Villanova and Georgetown. So it was like David and Goliath, right? And Villanova played one half where they're running and gunning, and they take the lead on Georgetown. And then all they did was just pass it around the arc the whole damn game without the shot clock. And I was just thinking, if that ever happened now, nobody would watch.
I mean, there would be beer thrown on the court. People would be walking out of the game. Like, come on now.
Yeah, so I love what has happened with college, but there's still more that needs to be done just because of examples of what I've seen in the past on YouTube. And
I'm just ready for them to adapt quarters and to ditch the 1-and-1 and the whole 7 fouls for 1-and-1 and 10 team fouls. Like, just adapt the pro style already.
I didn't even think about the 1-and-1s. Like, the only time I recognize it is in March Madness. Late in games. The other times I don't think about it.
Again, I'll use my old anecdote because I work in college basketball. I get used to how the women's game gets played because it kind of goes like clockwork, with the 10-minute quarters, 10 minutes, 4 10-minute quarters, the use it or lose it timeout, 3 30s and 3-minute long timeouts, plus the bonus, use it or lose it. And then you also have, 5 team fouls, and then that's a day at the office. But then with men's hoops, you've got 2 20-minute halves, 7 timeouts, 7 team fouls, fouls 7, 8, and 9 are 1-and-1, and then 10 beyond is 2 free throws.
Just need to get to the
too many damn media timeouts.
Yeah, the timeouts are just way down too much. I just can't. I can't stand it. You're in a rhythm watching these tournament games, and then we'll be right back, and then we'll be right back. I can't stand whenever that happens.
Oh, man. So, James, my off the board topic actually takes me to a top 10 list that I just stumbled upon. Thank you, ChatGPT. In wake, of course, James, that we've been piling on the Mavericks with the trade of Luka Doncic. How about the top 10 most shocking trades in sports history? Some trades change the course of a franchise, while others leave fans in disbelief. Here are the top 10 most surprising trades ever, not including Luka going to the Lakers. Number 10, Russ to the Denver Broncos. Wilson had been the face of the Seahawks for a decade, winning a Super Bowl and making multiple Pro Bowls. Friction between Russ and the Seattle front office led to his departure, and the Seahawks chose to rebuild. Denver gave up a huge package, but Wilson struggled, leading to coaching changes and questions about his long-term fit in Denver, which obviously didn't last after one season.
You know, I never thought a quarterback like him would get traded, but his numbers kind of dissolved, and that's what kind of made it relative. But never a star quarterback like that. So I can see that.
Number 9, Paul George going to the Thunder, then to the LA Clippers. Most assumed that Paul George would want to go to the Lakers, but OKC swooped in out of nowhere. The Pacers feared losing him for nothing in free agency, so they took a package that was centered around Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. George had 2 great years in OKC, but forced his way out to the Clippers to alter the NBA landscape. Now he's in Philadelphia playing for a terrible team, and he's got a terrible teammate, Joel Embiid, on his side.
Yeah, but did you see the haul that the Thunder got back from the Clippers? Which they haven't even used yet? Oh, God, I can't even think about that crap. And those picks are coming up, too. It's 25 and 27 for the Thunder. They might use that and try to get someone else, but the Clippers gave up a lot to get George, and in the end, like Lincoln Park said, it doesn't really matter.
Number 8, James. Goaltending great Patrick Waugh dealt from the Canadiens to the Colorado Avalanche 30 years ago. Patrick Waugh was a Canadiens legend and one of the best goalies of all time, but he was left in net during a humiliating 11-1, yes, 11-1 loss against the Red Wings, and Patrick Waugh was pulled finally, but went right to the owner sitting behind the Montreal bench and told him that it was his last game ever in Montreal. Waugh left for Colorado, the former Quebec Nordiques, and led them to 2 championships, while Montreal struggled to recover from losing their franchise goalie. That was pretty shattering back in '95.
Isn't that all on camera? Like the
you can see him going and telling the owners, "This is my last game here. F you."
Yeah, that just feels like a insult, I would say. I know there's one trade that'll come up in the NHL. It might be number 1, but I've heard of this Patrick Roy trade, and wasn't Colorado? Were they fresh off moving from?
They had just moved from Quebec to Denver, and they won the championship that year that he went there.
Jeez.
Speaking of cool tidbits, James, regarding my question about the Bucks winning the 2 titles in different conferences. The Avalanche, I think, are the only team that left a market, went to a new market, and won it their first year in '95.
The first year? Oh, see that was just going to ask you, how many years was it when they
year 1?
And Vegas almost did that. Wow,
they almost did. 2017. Thank you to the Capitals. Number 7, James, Kawhi to the Toronto Raptors. Leonard was expected to go to LA or a contender, not a team like the Raptors. Kawhi wanted out of San Antonio, and the Spurs took the best available offer, sending him and Danny Green to Toronto for DeMar DeRozan. Leonard then gave the Raptors their first ever title in 2019 before he left for the LA Clippers.
It was shocking, excuse me, because he didn't go west, but it was only for 1 year. But I think just because of the destination, but he had no control over it, although he had control.
And then the fact he broke the Sixers back with that, ping pong 3-pointer to win it all.
Yeah, he had
game series. Toronto is won.
He had a game winner yesterday like that, I think, or
left hand in the lane, put it up, and it ping ponged around, and then Brian seems like Clippers win.
It was just like, it reminded me of that bounce, but the stakes weren't like that. But yeah, it was just weird because he He didn't go to the West, but eventually he went West, but he won a championship nevertheless and left. Only he would leave after a championship.
Number 6, James, A-Rod to the Yankees. A-Rod was coming off of a MVP season with the Rangers and was baseball's highest paid player, but the Rangers could not afford to keep the contract, and after a deal with the Red Sox fell through, the Yankees made their move. A-Rod helped the Yanks win the World Series in 2009, but also brought controversy with his suspensions for PED usage.
I don't think it was a shock. I think it was more, it was either Red Sox or Yankees, and the Yankees won it out. In the long run, it didn't work out, but the fact that Texas could not handle his contract was kind of a big deal at the time because, again, no one gave out that much money. What was it, like 252 at that time? And
Nearly bankrupt the damn franchise.
10 years or whatever it was. And yeah, they didn't get much back. They got what, Alfonso Soriano back in that deal. I can't remember anybody else, but at that time it was like what the Yankees needed, and they got it. And it just winning one championship, they're out.
Number 5, James, Herschel Walker to the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota gave up a haul of players and draft picks for one player. The Vikings thought that Walker was the missing piece for a Super Bowl run, while Dallas had a chance to rebuild. The Cowboys used the draft picks to build a dynasty, winning 3 titles in the 90s, while the Vikings got little in return and never won the Super Bowl.
I wish I was around at the time, like I am now, where I could really understand either the shock or the frustration of how many draft picks went the other way. But I think at that time it was the Wild Wild West, where if you really wanted to get what you needed, you really gave up. Maybe the Clippers did that with Paul George, but since then there's never been for draft picks there's been deals like this. You know, for Ricky Williams, the Saints and Mike Ditka moved up. I forget who they dealt with. I think it was with Washington, but they gave him a bunch of picks. And then St. Louis, the Rams at the time, got a bunch of picks from Washington to get RG3, for RG3 to get drafted by Washington. And it looks like none of this, other from the Dallas trade, ever worked out. It's never been duplicated. It's never been done because of that.
I doubt it. Number 4, James, Babe Ruth to the Yankees in 1919. The Sox traded away one of baseball's best young players in his prime because the owner of the Red Sox, Harry Frazee, had to sell Ruth to fund his Broadway play. Ruth became a Yankee legend, helping them dominate baseball while Boston endured an 86-year drought called the Curse of the Bambino.
I didn't know it was for the Broadway play. My God.
It was 1919 after all, James.
Yeah, and wow. Just think of the history of this one. That's crazy to me.
Trade number 3, Shaq to Miami. Shaq and Kobe just won 3 straight titles with the Lakers. The relationship between Shaq and Bryant had gotten very much out of control, forcing the Lakers to choose between Kobe or Shaq. They picked Kobe. Shaq won a ring in 2006, while the Lakers rebuilt around Bryant and later won 2 more rings in 2009 and 2010.
Yeah, I lived this one.
Did they really ever fully put the kibosh on their beef?
Yeah, they did. It was that
when they retired Shaq's number?
No. I think it was 2006. Okay, when they had the All-Star game in Houston, they had a little fun, and they probably talked behind the scenes about it. And then they met again, Miami and the Lakers. But the year before, the 2 years before, was really contentious with both.
I mean, I recall it got really messy in 2008 when the Lakers got clobbered by Boston and Shaq. There was video of Shaq at a nightclub. I think he was drunk out of his mind, and he got on the karaoke mic and he said, "Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes."
Last week couldn't do without me. I still remember that.
That video is still out there somewhere, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, I think they hashed everything out. But I think Shaq just loves beef and loves attention, that he'll bring up stuff. But remember they had the interview, I think, on NBA TV when both were retired. It was like,
yes, and I think that was kind of like the first time that they had finally put a stop to it.
But I think in terms of publicly, I think privately they were just fine. Remember Shaq went to the last Kobe game and he scored 60. I think they were just fine, but they had to do that to really get settled. And it was just the unfortunate, death of Kobe that just made everything at an ending point. Now it's just Shaq praising, but he still has funny stories. Okay, about that trade though, real quick. Brian Grant, Lamar Odom, and Karan Butler went to the Lakers. And I'm thinking to myself, who the hell is going to play center? And there's Chris Mims.
Lamar Odom.
Lamar's too small and too skinny. He's
Still
a
won a
six
couple
man.
of rings though with the Lake
No,
Show.
I know. No, but who would play center after losing Shaq, the most dominant force,
Did they bring in
ever?
Chris Mim for a while?
Yeah,
to play
Chris
center?
Mim was there for a good 3 or 4 years, but that's not Shaq. I kept saying that to myself. And
This
then they had
ain't Shaq.
no, then they had all the Chuck Yatkins, Tierra
It's the
Brown,
99-cent store version of Shaq.
Jermaine Jones, all these
Kwame
players.
Brown.
And they acquired Kwame Brown, and then Brian Cook, Luke Walton. It was like I felt so down being a fan at the time. And then Miami goes out a couple years later and wins the title and feels like that should have been the Lakers. But the only thing is like when Shaq and Kobe, when Shaq got older, he wouldn't have been on the court much with Kobe. And then Kobe would probably got frustrated anyway. And it was Kobe's team, and that's why Shaq. You just knew a divorce was happening.
And I think that it was spurred on by how they loaded up with Malone and Gary Payton Sr. and they just crumpled so badly.
Yeah.
Number 2, James, I think you were close. Wayne Gretzky to the LA Kings in '88. Gretzky was the face of hockey and had just won 4 Stanley Cups with the Oilers. But Oilers owner Peter Pocklington needed the money, and the Kings wanted to try to grow hockey in the U.S. Gretzky's move to L.A. helped popularize the sport in the U.S., leading to more expansion franchises in non-traditional markets like L.A. and Anaheim and also San Jose. The Oilers, though, still won one more trophy without Gretzky as their team captain.
When there's a 30 for 30 made about the trade, that makes it number one for me.
Absolutely.
That's the only one I've seen. I think no. The one I've seen hockey related is Big Shot about the Islanders owner. I love that one, but it's so bad what he was lying about. Yeah, that trade made American hockey big. It made the Ducks clearly happen. Mighty Ducks happen, in my opinion. And then it just sucks because the Kings didn't win a cup. They did go to one in '93, but lost to Montreal. And Canada hasn't won a cup since, but just the magnitude of that, it must have felt better than Pele coming from Brazil to play for the Cosmos at the Meadowlands. It must have felt 100 times more than that.
And the number 1 trade made that was the most shocking, James, and I think we probably would agree, Tom Brady leaving the Patriots to play for Tampa Bay in 2020. Brady spent 20 years with the Pats, winning 6 rings. No one expected him to ever leave the Patriots. But Brady wanted a fresh start and more control over the offense, while the Patriots were hesitant to commit long-term to a 43-year-old quarterback. Tom won a ring with the Bucs his first year there, proving he did not need Bill Belichick to succeed. The Patriots have struggled since, and to find a better replacement than Tom, terrific.
I guess that was the big deal, of course.
Now I think it's Luka going to the Lakers.
Yeah, but looking back at that real quick with Tom Brady, I look back at it now and think, okay, yeah, there was a power struggle with the owner, Kraft, the coach Belichick, and Brady, the star. And usually the player gets to do what he wants, right? And that's in any sport. But Brady is like Jeter, right? He's like Jordan. He's like Gretzky. He gets to do what he wants. And the endings are never fun whenever you're a dynasty. The breakup is never, ever fun. It's sad. It's emo. It's whatever. It was a shock for him to go to Tampa Bay, but he had houses in Florida, going through a divorce, whatever. It was more shocking than Joe Namath signing with the Rams, Manning going to the Broncos. I think that was via trade as well. No, I can't
I think he was
remember,
a free
but
agent.
I think so because he's come off the neck injury. But okay, I can see. But for me, just because of magnitude, I think it's Gretzky.
I think it's Gretzky for how it helped shaped
Yeah,
California hockey for sure. I mean, at that time when he comes here, it was still just the Kings. I think the Sharks were a couple years away from starting, as were the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim at the time. And I heard James, when the Ducks retired they retired Timu Solani's number in 2014 or 15 or 2013, maybe even 2011. It's been a while though. But I remember Ryan Getzlaf, who should be in the Raptors fairly soon, hopefully for the Ducks. He said during the video montage, he said, other than Gretzky coming to Los Angeles, that Timu Solani also has a very big role in helping grow hockey, mainly in Orange County with the Mighty Ducks. Him and Paul Kariya were the dynamic duo for like 5 years before they both went on to, Timu went to the Sharks, he went to the Avalanche, and he was never fully healthy before he came back to Anaheim in 2005. But yeah, I think Gretzky for sure, because it really helped prove that the NHL could succeed in Los Angeles. It had done well though when the Kings became a franchise in '67. They had the miracle on Manchester. They had their rivalry with the Oilers back in the day. They had their battles with all the expansion franchises. And then, now the league all of a sudden, James, goes from, is in LA, San Jose. Oh, now we're in Anaheim. We're in Vegas. They went to Arizona. They're in Salt Lake City. They went to Texas. They went to Florida. They went to Carolina. They went to,
Nashville.
Nashville, places that you probably would not think would support hockey. Yet, James, here we are because simply of Gretzky going to Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's why I think it is, just based on the impact. And again, if you make a 30-30 on a trade, I think that's the biggest thing. Now, draft trade, I would probably say LA not wanting to be with the Colts and getting traded to the Broncos. Or Kobe going from the Hornets to the Lakers. That would probably be another one.
I mean, do you really want me to say it, James?
Eli from the Chargers to the Giants.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love Phillip Rivers, though, still. All right, James, we're nearing. I hate the time
Blame me.
I blame the time change. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and I still feel like it's midnight because of the time change. But with that in mind, though, James, final thoughts for the night show while we still have 5 live viewers at nearly 1 a.m. on the West Coast. Thank you all for hanging out tonight.
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments. Thank you for watching. Whenever there's NBA and there's history, and when there's predictions of the NBA, I'm going to talk a while. And that's what happened today. You had a trade deadline. I had free agency in the NFL.
54 trades in the NHL.
Yeah, Hacksaw's not lying when he said Friday's going to be crazy.
I knew it was, and it sure lived up to it, and I loved every minute of it.
Shout out to them. And then with all the issues in baseball, that's just a microcosm of all the other problems going on in MLB of what we started out with tonight. It's a lot to do, and just make sure everybody tunes in to all the C2C programs, especially, again, that sounds stupid. I was going to say the ones that I'm on, the ones that I can remember. But Entertainment Hour, Friday, Saturday, we're going to do On Deck, hopefully. We'll see what other issues come up with MLB.
Who knows what'll be on Press Row on Thursday.
Press Row Thursday with you and the great rants that you have about the Mavericks. Maybe they'll do something stupid during the week.
Oh, please. I've had enough.
Another thing they'll do. But yeah, keep tuning in, C2C and everywhere else.
Yeah, folks, final thoughts from me. Again, thanks to everyone who hung out tonight, by the way. We normally try to keep it at 2 hours, but sometimes we get some good, discussions. We do a top 10. I've kind of been working some top 10s about sports. But yeah, still have 5 people joining us at nearly 1 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. It's way past our bedtimes, but daylight savings time has been kicking my ass for the past couple days. For those of you, by the way, that were wondering about PressBox 1100, again, I talked about this on Thursday and last Friday. We're holding off on our launch on Tuesday to probably, I'd say, later this month, if not in April. to kind of, again, kind of restructure a couple of things. We're looking for the right date. I'm also starting my high school baseball season in a couple of weeks as well. So some of my Mondays will be kind of taken in the daytime. But also, if I'm not drunk next Monday for my favorite holiday of the year for St. Patty's Day, we will have a show here on Coast to Coast at 10 o'clock in the evening. If not, I don't want to be coming here after a few car bombs and a few Guinnesses and having James having to hold down the fort while I probably puke my brains out, but we'll keep you updated about that. But yes, Presto is back on Thursday, back in our 10 o'clock p.m. time slot to, again, hopefully not talk about the Mavericks anymore. I'm done with it. We'll see what comes out of it, though, courtesy of Front Office Sports, Awful Announcing, and also from Sportico.com and from The Athletic. But with that in mind, though, folks, again, thanks for hanging out again. This has been a great night. To still have 5 live viewers right now watching us here. Just kind of signed off here at 2 hours and 55 minutes of torture of this program. Gotta love the late night audience, James. Gotta love them.
Yeah, hopefully it's people that are working or that can't sleep and they have thoughts like we do, and we're thankful that you're here, that you were here.
I mean, I'm literally going to go back and watch the show and eat some leftover pizza because I'm still wide awake.
Fast forward it.
I'm not going to fast forward it, man.
You ever put the speed on YouTube videos? You put like the 2x or 1.
No, I only do that, James, for annoying voice messages in like 5 different IG accounts from you know who.
I agree with that.
Also, a major thanks to Christy Wilson and Brandon Herrera and new viewer Michael Garza, and also to our good man Jack Braun for joining us tonight on this program. Again, folks, we'll see you back here hopefully next week if I'm in one piece. If I don't overdo it with car bombs and Guinness on Monday for St. Patty's Day, we'll see you folks back here again next Monday, probably more than likely at 10 p.m. back here if I'm not totally teenage wastelanded by the Who. With Roger Townsend and Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend next Monday coming up here for St. Patty's Day. If not, we'll be back with you folks here the following Monday for our full-fledged baseball season preview coming up in 2 weeks on March 24th back here on C2C. But for all of our viewers and for James and for myself, Callan McClurg, we'll see you folks back here again. Fingers crossed for next Monday back here on C2C. Till next time, folks, have a great night. Till then, bye-bye.